Hey Froggy friends, Kirostyle here. Welcome back to Umineko When They Cry. This is episode 2, Turn of the Golden Witch. In the last stream, we kind of got past all the beginning exposition stuff. We found out more about the relationship between George and Shannon, and Canon and Jessica. And now we are back to our story at Rokenjima, and looks like things are just starting, so it's a good place for us to get going for today. So there will still be some exposition today. Hopefully not as much, but we will... I'm not sure if we'll get to the first Twilight today, but we'll try. Thank you so much for coming here on stream. I really appreciate it. Thank you again for pelting me with bits as soon as we started, CB. I really appreciate it. Okay, here we go. They had eaten breakfast at a coffee shop in the station building. By chance, the inside of the shop had been decorated with Halloween colors, since it was October. Maria had seemed to be awfully pleased with that. For quite some time, she talked loudly inside the train about wanting to have a Halloween festival without caring that she was attracting the attention of others. Halloween is popular in Europe and America, but people aren't that familiar with it in Japan. The shopping district was colorfully decorated with orange pumpkins, but the costume parades of children demanding sweets and saying trick-or-treat were nowhere in sight. Ugh, I want a Halloween festival. I don't want to wear these clothes, I want to look like a witch. Ugh. The family conference isn't for playing. We're going to meet grandfather, so you have to dress up nice. While it wasn't completely full inside the train, it was really packed, with almost all the seats occupied by passengers. Maria was making a fuss among them, stomping her feet on the seat, while Rosa scowled at her. Rosa had warned her many times to lower her voice, but Maria hadn't obeyed her at all. Once Maria got like this, no matter how much she tried to explain the situation or calm her, she wouldn't listen. Before, Rosa used to pamper Maria and give in to her at times like this. But that had probably been a mistake. Surely Maria had gained the mistaken impression that throwing a tantrum long enough would make her mother give up and do what Maria said. Rosa had realized that error with the help of an educational book, and since then, she'd hardened that part of her heart that wanted to pamper her beloved daughter. Her mutual understanding with Maria began to grow weaker and weaker, and she began to get discouraged by her own powerlessness more and more often. Halloween, Halloween! If you don't give me sweets, I'll play a prank, ugh! I don't have any sweets to give you. We just ate breakfast. If you don't give me sweets, I'll play a prank. If you don't give me sweets, I'll play a prank, ugh! Hey, Psycho Reaper, welcome back from the restroom. Thank you so much for joining me here on stream. A stout old woman who was sitting nearby as Maria stomped her feet picked a candy out of her handbag and held it out to Maria. I got a sweet! I got a sweet! Look, look, Mama! Mama! Happy Halloween! Hey, Maria, you can't just accept sweets from strangers, right? Give it back. Oh, don't worry about it, ho ho ho. She's such a spirited young lady. How old is she? Maybe there was no malice in the old woman's words. However, Rosa seemed to find that remark extremely humiliating. Maria, haven't I always told you not to accept sweets from strangers? She gave it to me. No, it's mine. Let go of it. How many times did I tell you to do what Mama says? It's mine! Mine! Don't I always tell you not to say, Rosa reflexively hit Maria violently on her cheek. In a flash, Maria started crying loudly. Rosa immediately took the candy from Maria's hand and pushed it back towards the dumbfounded old woman sitting next to them. Please do not just give sweets to my daughter. I'm so sorry. Breathing heavily, Rosa once again held the candy out to the old woman. After getting flustered about what she would say for a few moments, perhaps the old woman realized that her actions may have troubled this parent and child, and she accepted the candy back, apologizing. After that, Rosa finally took notice of her surroundings. Her daughter's clothes were all messed up. She was crying and shouting with her nose dripping. and there were many dumbfounded passengers watching them. Except for the sound of the train running, the interior was completely silent. Fortunately, that pitiful silence didn't last more than a short while. However, it was followed by an even more painful atmosphere as everyone began to whisper. Maria shouted, cried, kicked, and stomped her feet as usual, paying no heed to the people sitting around her. Impulsively, Rosa tried to slap her again, but she noticed the cold eyes of the people in the train, and couldn't. Hey V, welcome to the stream. Thank you so much for stopping by. Hope you're doing well. Hello, hello. When the train stopped, Rosa forcibly pulled Maria's arm and got off, almost dragging her daughter along. Hey PP, welcome to the stream. Welcome, thank you so much for coming. Maria didn't stop crying. Rosa took her to the end of the platform and hit her cheek again. At the moment she was hit, Maria stopped crying for an instant, but before long she shouted and cried even more than before. Overwhelmed with emotion, Rosa grabbed the nape of Maria's neck and dragged her, tugging at her hair. Mama, it hurts. Mama, it hurts. Didn't I tell you to shut up? That of yours. I told you to stop. That's the reason you can't make friends in class, right? Get a hold of yourself. Why are you still a kindergartner inside your head? Why can't you do what Mama says? Why? Why? With those severe words, Rosa hit Maria's cheek over and over again. The more Maria cried and shouted, the more Rosa hit her. And the more Maria was hit, the more intensely she cried and shouted. Mama, it hurts. Mama, it hurts. Mama, save me. Mama, save me. Why can't you stop saying, This is exactly why you can't make friends. This is why Papa's business trip never ends. This is why excuse me, ma'am. Is everything alright? Do you want something? The one who timidly called to her was the station attendant. Rosa glared at the attendant with a look that said, "Don't butt into the problems of a mother and child, stranger." Of course, the attendant surely hadn't wanted to get involved either. However, Rosa had been yelling on the platform for a much longer time than she had imagined. Her emotional scolding had led the passengers on the platform to advise the attendant to call out to her. Rosa yelled at the attendant, saying not to worry anymore since they'd be getting on the next train. And then finally, or rather, for the second time, she noticed the passengers on the platform staring at her from a distance. Rosa sweat slightly and felt a breeze make her sweat go cold, tormenting her. Maria still kept on crying, shielding her own head. Of course, if this beating continued, she'd probably keep crying indefinitely. I did it. Again. As the terrible heat in Rosa's head faded, she knew she had surrendered her soul to evil again. Mama! Mama! Mama, come back! Rosa fell to her knees and hugged Maria, whose face was all soggy with tears and mucus. Maria, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Mama, Mama, welcome back. Welcome back. Finally, Maria realized that her mother was her mother again. She clung to her mother's body and cried, burying her face in her mother's chest. Forgive your bad mama. Forgive your bad mama. I'm so sorry. Please, don't hate your mama. I'm just fine. Won't hate mama. Mama was only being possessed by the bad witch again. But she came back. So I'm just fine. Yeah, that's right. Mama was just being possessed by the evil witch again. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. For a long time, the two of them hugged each other, asking for and sharing words of forgiveness. After a while, they calmed down and both moved back at the same time. Maria's face and Rosa's face were both deep red after crying their eyes out. Do you want to have a Halloween festival, Maria? Yeah. I want to show those pumpkin marshmallows to George Oni-chan and Jessica One-chan. It was a candy they'd been selling near the cash register at the shop where they'd eaten breakfast. A fancy sweet that had a big orange marshmallow in the shape of a jack-o'-lantern attached to the tip of a stick. Maria had wanted it and had insistently pestered Rosa for it. Rosa had refused, saying that there was no way she could buy sweets right after breakfast. Then, Maria, I don't know if they sell those in this town or not, but let's get off and try searching for them again, okay? Yeah! I love you, Mama. I love you so much. Thank you. I love you too, Maria. The truth was that they didn't have time to waste loitering around at the stopover station. If they missed the airplane, they'd fall half a day behind schedule. She should have left home with more time to spare, but she ended up leaving late after choosing Maria's clothes. Because of that, Rosa had been a bit impatient since this morning. She looked at the clock. They had to get on the next train immediately, but her daughter firmly joined hands with her to go buy the sweet with her mother, and that hand was warm. To Rosa as she was now, it was more important to renew her bonds with Maria. To her, Maria was not only a beloved daughter, she was everything Rosa had. Fortunately, they could see a big supermarket right in front of the station. They might not be able to find exactly the same sweet, but Maria would probably be happy with a similar one. Besides, Rosa couldn't show up with a face swelled from crying. She must fix her makeup. Maybe we won't find a marshmallow exactly like that one, but hopefully we can find something like it. Let's buy some and surprise all your cousins together. Yeah, as long as we buy it together, any sweet is fine. They exited through the turnstiles of the station in this unknown town. Maria walked across the pedestrian crossing together with her mother, chuckling to herself as though she was walking in an amusement park. Both faces were still deep red, but the two of them, mother and child, smiled warmly at each other, without any restraint. So if you recall from the beginning of episode 1, Rosa and Maria were among the last ones to join them at the airport, and that's the reason why. So again, in this episode, we're seeing scenes that play into the story that we didn't see last time and expand upon it, although some events will diverge a bit as we go. Dear, what are you doing in a place like this? Oh, it's you. It's nothing. I just find this a pleasant place to think. All of our preparations for today have been completed. Why don't we have some tea and relax while we wait? Forgive me. I'm always making you handle such troublesome matters. Please, rely on me even more. I am your wife. Naturally, I'm grateful to have you always coming to my aid. That's precisely why I'm able to devote myself to my work. I understand. I understand about your work. The topic of father's inheritance, right? That has nothing to do with you. It's nothing more than fishing for rotten meat amongst greedy siblings. It's okay, dear. Everything will go well. Your businesses have never failed to work themselves out. Natsui softly cuddled close to Krause's shoulder. She complimented Krause on his hard work, but Natsui knew better than anyone his work wasn't going well. Krause's project was something like a seesaw, where a large amount of money swings. Big investments can lead to massive payoffs, but like large seesaws, they tend to shake a lot while moving very slowly, instead of showing immediate results. At times, it's possible to make further investments, so the seesaw inclines faster towards the side you want. Of course, you'd only do that if you were confident you'd be able to recover all your investments in the not-so-distant future. However, the seesaws Krause chose never turned out the way he would have liked them to. His foresight wasn't wrong, but the times were moving sluggishly. They never managed to catch up with him. For example, think of a literal seesaw placed in a park. It's a really popular item, so there's always someone playing on it, and you've got to wait for a long time for your turn. Let's say that one day you spotted one of those seesaws that was completely unused and you raced to grab it first and have it all to yourself. However, unless someone got on the opposite side of the seesaw, you wouldn't be able to play on it. What if lots of time passed and nobody came to the opposite end? Seesaws are popular, so if you wait long enough, a companion will surely show up. But Kraus noticed something. The weather's getting worse, so nobody's coming outside to play. The seesaws are popular, so someone will surely come eventually. If he vacated his place because of the worsening weather, it would certainly be snatched away, and once again he'd end up longingly gazing from a distance at someone else having fun on the seesaw. On one side of the seesaw he continued to wait patiently, all alone. That was Kraus's project and his current situation. If only I had had a bit more courage and the self-confidence to believe in my own foresight, I would never have failed. Yes, that's true. Your foresight is never wrong. You are the only one who inherited father's resourcefulness. You inherited an innate disposition that none of the other siblings did. But I could never believe in it. I always shut my own projects down like a coward. Why can't I believe in myself? Who would believe in a man who can't believe in himself? Nobody believes. I'm always sitting here on the seat where the losers must sit. And my father, my mother, my siblings all sneer at me. How long is it going to take for me to be set free of this emotional complex? Just how long will it take? Natsui was the only one who knew. Only she knew of Kraus's anguish. As the eldest son of the Ushiyama family, who would soon be forced to bear an immense responsibility, he couldn't open his pained heart to anyone, and was always getting compared to his father's great enterprises. I've made preparations concerning all other matters, so you will be able to devote your attention entirely to the family conference. Yes, everything else has been seen to. Thank you. Will there be any problems dealing with father? No. Genji and Dr. Nanjo are on our side. I'll never allow those greedy siblings to make contact with father. Hello, Goda here. Yes, please leave it to me. I'm anxious to put my skills to work for the big annual job. In the kitchen, multicolored ingredients were gathered and the preliminary arrangements were promptly being started. Even though it was still morning, the ingredients for dinner were already in saucepans and steaming. Normally, he had to deal with several assorted matters, but on the day of the family conference, he could devote himself entirely to cooking. To Goda, who was originally a chef, this was surely the greatest gala occasion of the whole year. Yes, dinner will be calf steak. A wonderful cut of meat is already anxiously waiting for tonight in the refrigerator. Please be sure to look forward to dinner. It was rare for Goda to be in this good of a mood towards his fellow servants. Goda bragged about being the Ushiyama family's personal chef, and knowing he was considered worthy to display his excellent cooking at the family conference was his greatest honor. Understood. I will leave everything to you. Also, is Kumasawa there? Kumasawa-san? I happened to see her earlier, but she is not here. Perhaps she went to get things ready in the guest house. Is she loafing around again? No, it is fine. Please continue with your work. Yes, leave everything to me, Goda. Genji placed the telephone back on the receiver, sighing lightly. Genji sighed once again, thinking of Kumasawa, who was probably hiding again even though things were this busy, and the ostentatious Goda, who only felt like doing anything on a day when he could show off. Excuse me, the preparations for all the rooms in the guest house are complete. We received instructions from Milady to prepare a room for 4 people, so that the children can spend the night together. So what shall we do? I hear Battler-sama will be coming for the first time in 6 years. Presumably Milady wants to stay up late into the night with her 3 cousins. Make the preparations. You do not need to tell Madam. I see. Certainly. So, tonight we will have the late night shift, followed immediately by the morning shift. It looks like these 2 days will be tiresome. Speaking of which, the weather forecast is saying a typhoon will strike in this area. Will everything be alright? Assuming the typhoon does not stray too far from its course, it may affect the boat ride back for the family members. The family conference's schedule might be extended until Monday or Tuesday. Our task may be a long and tiring one, but I earnestly ask that you take care not to make any blunders. Shannon, remain calm and do not panic. Canon, be sure to greet our guests in a sociable manner. Yes. I'll be careful. I'll be careful. Today we must conduct ourselves in a manner suitable for a very important guest. See to it you make no blunders. We understand. All guests who visit here are important. Canon, in the truest sense, we will be receiving a very important guest today. Make sure you are prepared. Yes, sir. Shannon, is something the matter? You seem to be uneasy. Do you have some prior engagement at this time? Huh? No, it's nothing. My apologies. Ne-san, important guests will be arriving today. Detach yourself from your private life. I don't know what you mean by private life. As Shannon blushed just a bit, she turned her gaze away from the clock. Was it about time for the airplane carrying the family to arrive at Nijima? She tried to hide the fact that her upcoming long-awaited reunion with George was making her heart race. But Canon, who stood beside her, seemed to see right through her. Shannon, please don't say a word and accept this. Inside a bathroom stall, George was practicing something over and over, taking out a small velvet box hidden in his pocket, like a quick-draw desert gunman. That's not it. Shannon likes men who are more assertive. I've got to pump it up with more horsepower. Shannon, put this on your ring finger. That's an order, okay? Ugh, if I don't say properly that's on the left hand, maybe she'll put it on her right hand. No, Shannon isn't that ignorant. Ugh, but unless there's some room for her to express her free will, that'd be a little, I mean... As he crossed his arms, muttering, someone knocked on the door. George was snapped back to reality. Hey, George-kun. You okay? Got a stomachache or something? Hey, Uncle Rudolph. It's okay, I'm fine. No need to worry. Really? That's good then. But you know, you're straining way too much. Your ass will burst. Rudolph washed his hands, laughing cheerfully as he left. George, realizing that the most embarrassing part hadn't been overheard, relaxed, and felt extremely relieved. Kyrie, isn't Rosa here yet? Not yet. She's pretty late. It's a good thing the weather's delaying our flight. If the schedule had gone on normally, she would have missed the plane. What's she plan on doing then? Rosa-san is very much an adult now. She'll manage it somehow. No matter how old they get, older brothers always treat their younger sisters like children. And of course, Dad's always a kid no matter how old he gets. What'd you say? If I'm a kid, that make you a baby. Come on, Battler-chan, up you go. Stop it, that tickles! Stop! You look more like two bratty friends than a father and a son. Look, she's here. Oh! If it isn't Rosa-san. Maria-chan, long time no see. Long time no see. Maria, shouldn't that be, it's good to see you again? Greet Hideyoshi-san properly. It's good to see you again. There you go. Well said. How about some candy as a reward? Oh, huh? Where'd I put it? Rosa-san, it's good to see you again. It's good to see you too, Maria-chan. It's been too long, Kirie-ne-san. Hideyoshi-ni-san. And oh my, Battler-kun. Look how big you've gotten. Ah, come on. It's embarrassing to hear that from everyone I meet. Hey, Rosa. You're late. If the plane was on time, you barely had made it. I'm sorry. We had some trouble making our train connection. So are we waiting on the weather again? Oh, don't complain. I much prefer the 30-minute plane trip to spending 6 hours bouncing about on a boat. Even if we kept waiting here for an hour, it'd still be much faster overall. Is that Maria? You sure have got big. She's at that growing age. You haven't seen her for 6 years, right? Of course she's changed. Women are creatures who could be born again in a single day when they have a little change of heart. Huh? Maria, noticing a big man she didn't recognize mixed in among the relatives, hid behind Rosa's back and glared at Badler. Come on, Badler, say hi. The last time you met her, she was just 3 years old, so you're practically meeting for the first time. Yeah, of course you wouldn't remember something that happened when she was 3. Hey, Maria, long time no see. You sure have gotten big. Maria, this is Badler Oni-chan, Rudolph Nissan's son. Understand? The brother's son is, brother is the son. Huh? She was obviously on her guard. After all, it was hardly surprising that she'd be scared if a large guy like Badler suddenly started speaking frankly to her. Badler noticed that as well and thought of various ways he might approach her. Then he spotted the candy she had in her hand. It was the jack-o'-lantern sweet Rosa had bought for her. I see, it's October. So that must be for Halloween. If you don't give me sweets, I'll play a prank, right? Normally trying to snatch a sweet away from a small child would result in them crying and screaming. The adult seemed dubious about Badler's tactics, but Maria looked unexpectedly pleased, her face splitting into a wide grin. Halloween, Halloween. See, Mama Badler also knows about Halloween, see? Hey, call him Badler Oni-chan. Sorry, Badler-kun. No, don't sweat it. Please call me Badler. So I'll be calling you Maria. Look, Maria, it's Halloween. If you don't give me sweets, I'll play a prank. Also, I know they keep saying how tall and big Badler's gotten, but in the original visual novel, he's roughly the same height as everyone else because of the art style. But here, he is almost reaching the top of the screen. He is towering over everyone else, and it really goes to show when he's right up to Rosa or Natsui or Ava, which is weird because I always just assumed that they were around the same height when watching the anime and stuff. If you don't give me sweets, I'll play a prank. Yeah. From inside her purse, Maria picked out a jack-o'-lantern sweet, similar to the one she had in her hand, and presented it to Badler. When Badler accepted it, that seemed to be enough to confirm their friendship. The adults were amazed at how good children can be at getting along with each other. Maria had been throwing a tantrum because she wanted a Halloween festival, so Badler, who knew about trick-or-treating, must have felt like an ally. Her defensive posture from before was completely gone. Now she was all cheery as though they'd been friends for decades. That's right, Halloween's a pretty minor event in Japan. You always see people marching in costume parades on the news from overseas, but I've never seen it here. I wanted to wear a costume too. Wanted to say, trick or treat with all the cousins wearing costumes. I see. Next time, let's do it together. What would you like to dress up as? A witch! Beatrice! Oh, milady, what are you doing in such a place? Madam was looking for you. I'm here because I don't want to be found. Anyway, I'm sure she just wants to scold me, is your appearance alright? And watch your language. Oh ho ho, without a doubt. You know, when the day of the family conference comes, I always start thinking about this witch for some reason. Oh, and why might that be? The family conference is the day when everyone related to grandfather gathers. I hear that this time even Badler's gonna be coming after 6 years. What if just like that, some relative who hasn't shown themselves for several decades suddenly shows up? That's what I'm always thinking about. Oh, could a relative like that exist? I mean, Beatrice-sama. Nobody knows her background. Could she be grandfather's mistress from long ago? What if one of her descendants suddenly appears and tells us to return the gold we were given or something? Oh ho ho! Kraus-sama and the others will probably discuss the master's inheritance problem this year too. Once they get so fired up talking about the witch's gold, one could hardly be surprised if that witch herself were to show up, yes? Kumasawa-san, I guess you keep quitting and getting rehired, but you've been here as long as Genji-san, right? You know more about Beatrice, don't you? Who knows? Ho ho. Even if I try to remember, this old woman here can't even recall what she had for breakfast this morning. Kumasawa-san, you're always dodging with those excuses, but you know something, right? Sometimes you feel kind of devious, like you know something and you're laughing behind our backs. Oh, that's harsh. I don't have any secrets. The only thing I can say is that Beatrice-sama is the Golden Witch, and that she is the other master who controls the night of this island. Okay, now you're just repeating stuff Grandfather said. It must be a pain to play along with Grandfather's crap, even though you get paid for it. However, I can say this much. What? In ancient times, Rokujima was feared and called Azukishima, Azuki Bean Island. The Azuki is said to be a corrupted form of Akujiki, and in fact it was called Akujikishima, Evil Appetite Island. That is what is told among the fishermen. I've heard about that before. Supposedly, there's a lot of sunken rocks and shipwrecks around here, so the fishermen got scared and stayed away whenever they could, right? Evil spirits settled down in Akujikishima and have continually eaten the souls of people since ancient times. Quite a few people lost their lives because of this island. And then that monk, the traveling Shugenja or whatever, built that shrine, reposed the souls and settled them there, right? Sounds pretty crazy. Oh right, that's Jessica's line, oops. And that shrine for the repose of souls was destroyed by an eerie violet thunderbolt this summer, which tore up the darkness of the night. Kumasawa-san, you really like those stories. Okay, sure, it'd be pretty creepy if a thunderbolt took out a shrine. But well, it was all worn out from the start. Maybe it just got washed away by some big wave. The evil spirits of Akujikishima woke from their slumber and summoned Beatrice-sama. If Beatrice-sama happens to pay a visit to the family conference. If she does. Kumasawa fell silent for a moment. Jessica was pressing her to keep going, so that gap felt strange and eerie. When Kumasawa noticed that she had Jessica plenty scared with her silence, she grinned broadly. Well now, I wonder what would happen. Oh. Whoa, that sounds great. Of course. Won't you be able to do better at work if you get a chance to enrich your heart by living the good life every once in a while? Yep. Can't live right unless both your wallet and your heart are enriched after all. Sure, I'll keep that day open. Go ahead and make reservations. Okay. Don't even think of missing it. Yeah, I'm counting on you. I love you, Kyrie. After kissing the receiver, Rudolph hung up. Before his seat, there were several executives with their sleeves rolled up, eagerly awaiting the end of that phone call. Sorry to keep you waiting. Have you heard anything from the States yet? Yes. You have a call from Dale Watanabe, the lawyer. I'll transfer it. On the whole, how's it going? Well, there does seem to be one unfortunate matter. It appears the other party has no intentions of withdrawing from the trial. Guess there's no fooling them. Huh. Please transfer it here. Understood. I'll do that right away. The executive ordered that the external line be transferred to the secretarial office. At once the phone in front of Rudolph rang. Hey there. Hello, hello. Sorry for the wait. Ushimiya speaking. Thanks. How's it going on your end? Hello, President Ushimiya. Let's skip the pleasantries and jump into the main issue. I've got good news and bad news. Which would you like first? Might as well start with the bad. I hate fighting when there's no dessert. Very well. The bad news is that the other party is getting ready to prosecute. Just a few days ago, a similar trial resulted in a decision in favor of the plaintiff. The defendants were using roughly the same arguments we planned to use, but they were rejected in every case. I'm afraid to say it, but if we face the courtroom as we are now, it's extremely likely that each of our claims will get rejected. So that trial ended up being a total bust after all, and I thought their position was even more solid than ours. That hurts. Okay, what about the good news? I managed to contact the executives of the other party. I explained the situation we're in, told them we have no intentions of tarnishing their brand's image, and managed to get an understanding. They'll send us their terms over the next few days, and if these are carried out, they promise to withdraw their charges. This is their proposal according to the number 2 man on their board of directors. Your impression? To be honest, I expect their terms will be extremely severe. We estimate that changing the company name and the brand name will be inevitable. I think we'll be able to earn some leeway by playing with the amount of settlement money, making a public apology in a major newspaper, and carrying all this out within a reasonable amount of time. They sure are making this complicated when they could just tell us to go broke. They only recently switched to a new president, and their groundwork hasn't been completely laid yet. If we resist until the bitter end, they fear the forces opposing their current president won't hesitate to aid their enemies. Hence, their big shots want this matter settled as quickly as possible too. So we might still have enough leeway to get them to mitigate their terms if it will lead to a quick settlement. Either way, we are still looking at a crazy sum of money. You need to be prepared for that. Even that would be much cheaper than paying punitive damages. Thank you very much, sir. Please contact me if anything new happens. We're paying you the big bucks, so no idle chit-chat. Haha. Thank you, goodbye. Rudolph hung up the phone. The executives sitting in reception seats seemed to have guessed at the contents of that discussion. You guys hear that? Simply put, they'll forgive us if we can pile up enough money. Now all we gotta do is haggle over that amount of money. But President, the likely sum for the settlement Mr. Watanabe indicated is too much. We don't have that much of a margin. If we'd known this would happen, we never would have started diversifying. The calculations were that we could escape a capital crisis if we managed to endure for 3 years. To think we'd be stabbed at a time like this, how bad could our luck get? I guess we fell at the step of the hop, step, and jump. It's enough to make you cry. We have no choice but to draw the money from the main bank. Banks are no good. They only bet their money on winners. The economy's improving, but we can't show weakness to the banks. Hey Lace, welcome to the stream. Thank you so much for coming by. Welcome. Hope you're doing well. And I hope you're having a good evening after your stream earlier today. President, do we have access to any funds that are unaccounted for? Funds we are unaware of? Quit it. Do I look like that kind of man? The contents of my wallet are totally exposed to you guys, okay? The account books over there show all our company has. In that case, we need to raise money. We need a sponsor who can draw in several million for us as soon as possible. President, couldn't something be worked out with one of your personal connections? President! Calm down, you bastards. Let me worry about raising the money. You guys just keep the business running without making too much noise. Our accusers are saying they'll let us be if we can show them the money. We've already got thick pipelines in Asia. Things will probably be shaky, but we'll be able to maintain our current deals. Basically, if we can just bring the money together, we'll be able to solve all our problems. Thanks, Lace. Yeah, make sure you get enough rest. I appreciate you stopping by. Just you watch, I'll fix all of this. I won't leave you out in the cold. Time to start getting your hopes up again. Once this is all behind us, I'll be rewarding all of you guys with a champagne tower. I promise you that. So shut up and follow me. Got it? The airplane suddenly shook, probably due to turbulence. Rudolph was jostled awake. He'd woken early that morning and ended up drifting off to sleep while resting in his seat. You okay? Are you sure you aren't pretty sleepy? After all, it seems you've been pretty busy with work lately. Being busy with work is nothing to complain about, right? Once I got nothing left to do, it won't be long before we're out in the cold. Good point. Now that even Badler comes back, we'd be looking at worse than just the two of us going around begging. Yeah, our family's all together again for the first time in 6 years. So the leader of our family's got to give it his best if we want to spend some time alone together. When we looked out the window, he saw that the airplane had already started to drop in altitude considerably. The fishing boats, what had only looked like black grains a short while ago, were starting to become clearly recognizable. If I could prostrate myself before Father and get 10 million yen every time he'd slugged me, I'd do it a dozen times. Or maybe he could just go and die already. I've always depended heavily on his financial support, and now I'm after his inheritance. I'm headed straight to hell. I can hardly complain if Father doesn't want to meet the man I've become. Could it be that once again, you do not plan on making an appearance at the family conference? Nanjo looked at Kinzo's face, sighing. Kinzo's eyes remained rooted to a strange book on magic. I have no intention of joining those vultures in their debate. They can discuss how they'll suck my bones dry on their own. How utterly contemptible. My, how troublesome. Nanjo shook his head slightly. To him, children and grandchildren were lovely things. He believed watching them grow was the only way to truly enjoy old age. So Kinzo's words were very saddening to Nanjo. If the time comes for me to leave this room, I will show myself. Just as she does not show herself yet. When Kinzo raised his face, his gaze pointed at the portrait of the witch, which was respectfully displayed on the wall. Kinzo's mind didn't dwell for a moment on the fact that today was the family conference, where all of his beloved relatives would gather. It was filled only by the face of the witch in the oil painting, who never smiled except inside the portrait. Everybody knew that interrupting Kinzo when he talked about Beatrice would trigger his wrath. Today, I will hold a certain ceremony. Oh, what might that be? Perhaps it is closer to a gamble than a ceremony. After all, magic without risk can never house a miracle. Nanjo had heard Kinzo say this many times before. You might even call it a pet phrase of Kinzo's. Kinzo apparently believed that magic and miracles could occur if you gambled your own fate with a certain amount of risk and triumphed. I wonder what sort of gamble you're making. As the man who was once called the Golden Gambler, who's now so old he might pass on at any time. This should be well worth watching. Huh. I see. So the secret ritual I developed after much research appears to be nothing more than a gamble to one unversed in magic such as you. Very well. If I have faith in miracles and win, you will see clearly on this day that all my research did bear fruit, despite it seeming to be a little more than a product of my eccentricity. If you win, it will all end just as you have already seen, as nothing more than the eccentricity of an old man who might leave this world at any time. Oh, just what sort of gamble could you be planning to take? As your friend, that bet, or ceremony as you called it. I can only pray most sincerely you achieve victory in it. Yes, I thank you. Speaking of which, Kinzo-san, have you heard that a much longed-for guest will be present at the family conference this year? What? For once, Kinzo reacted to Nanjo's words and turned around. That's right, Badler-kun from Rudolph-san's family. I heard he'll be coming after an absence of 6 years. I'm sure he's become a splendid boy. Oh, Badler. I wouldn't call him longed for. A guest who's failed to show up for a mere 6 years. After hearing Badler's name and making a disappointed and ill-humored expression, Kinzo turned his back again. I imagine those 6 years went by in a flash for you, considering how you've immersed yourself in your research in this room. Huh. However, we might actually receive a visit. From a truly longed-for guest. Everything depends on the results of the roulette. The roulette has already started to spin. Will it be rouge or noir? Tonight, let us enjoy ourselves as we see what kind of miracle the roulette will show us. The payoffs are large, and I don't intend to lose. Beatrice, accept my bet. At that time, the telephone on the table rang. The piercing sound seemed to irritate Kinzo, and he picked up the receiver to preserve the silence as much as he could. What is it? I'm busy. Genji speaking. Everyone has arrived. What of it? Just serve them some tea or something. Certainly. I will do so. Kinzo hung up on the phone rudely, looking at that Nanjo sighed yet again and shifted his attention outside the window. As he is now, I doubt Kinzo would pay any heed to any sort of guest. Could any guest possibly make Kinzo come out when the time comes, as he said? Kinzo had a single person in mind, but that was a guest who certainly wouldn't appear. Hey, Lord Temper, welcome to the stream. Thank you so much for coming by. Nanjo stared at the witch of the portrait with her impassive expression, unable to decide whether she was smiling or sad, and then gazed up at the lead-colored sky. So, are all the pieces in place? Shall we line them up again and start a new game? Any objections from you? Nope, none. The witch looked at him challengingly while elegantly smoking her pipe. And Badler? He just rudely shrugged his shoulders as if he didn't care what she did. He didn't meet her eyes, but that didn't mean he didn't intend to challenge her. So again, anytime we see like this warped background, this purple background, this is the metaverse. This is Beatrice and a metaverse version of Badler, who exists outside of the game board. He showed his clear determination to never be taken in by this bastard's tricks. It was an expression of his determination to fight. Don't tell me you're jumping into this without a plan. I don't even know how you'll make your first move, so I've got no plans or anything. Go ahead and move first. Huh, naturally I'll do so. How shall I break down your defenses? How many moves will it take to checkmate you? This is where you'll see me at my finest. No matter what moves you come at me with, I won't believe in you. As long as I stand my ground on that point, I won't lose. And that means this game's built in a way that makes it impossible for you to win. Perhaps you're right. However, I'm the one who decides how many times we'll hold this game. We'll repeat it over and over again until I win and you acknowledge your defeat. See? In other words, this is torture, an eternal torture that shall continue until you surrender to me. It shall go on endlessly until you acknowledge me and the existence of witches. Then I'll play your game endlessly as many times as it takes until you run out of patience. I've never lost in a test of stubbornness. Oh, did a certain witch plant that idea in your head? Very well. I'm tired of listening to you ramble. Come on, let's get this started. Then let us begin. I already know all of your moves. A defense doesn't amount to much if the plan behind it is known. Don't think you'll be able to defy me with the same moves. Beatrice, I've got just one more thing to say before we start. What is it? Go ahead and say whatever you want. However, whether I believe in you is something I'll decide for myself. No matter how impressive this magic of yours is, my soul won't yield to you. You think this is torture for me? You're wrong. Then what else could it be? This is torture for you. Someday, you'll surrender to me and give up. Until then, you'll be tortured over and over again. How amusing, what an entertaining metaphor. Torture where we torment each other. Yes, truly amusing. Come, shall we begin that torture? You show me a battler. Every year, the relatives visiting Rokunjima would let out a sigh of admiration at the rose garden that first greeted them. They would stop there to chat about the rose's beauty and how well they were blooming that year. In the midst of all this, there was a single unhealthy rose, and Maria became overwhelmed with dejection at its condition. George used his quick wits, in saying that everything would be fine if they took care of this poor thing, marked it with a candy wrapper, and immediately restored Maria's good mood. Then Badler, with whom she'd been getting along well with since that morning, started talking about Halloween. This was such a favorite topic of Maria's that she began playing around energetically again. To Maria, that marshmallow jack-o'-lantern candy bought by her mother was probably the greatest sort of treasure. They seemed to have bought several, and she demanded a trick or treat from every person she met, giving them candy instead of the other way around. I wonder why Maria likes Halloween so much. I always figured it was a pretty unfamiliar event for the Japanese. Well, it's a kids' festival where they get to parade around in costumes, right? It can be fun to play around in outfits that's different than usual. I think there's a slightly deeper cause behind it. After all, she is the witch Maria-chan. Come to think of it, when we were at the airport, didn't Maria say that she was going to wear a costume, maybe a witch? Does she like witches? Yes, she loves them. So much that it becomes a problem. Hey, it's not so bad. You expect kids at that age to love fantastical stuff like that. If it was just a heroine on some TV anime, at least it'd be cute. Ugh. Judging by Rosa's appearance, she wasn't very happy about her daughter's love for witches as a mother. The cousins other than Badler seemed to realize this, and they shrugged, wearing stiff smiles. So you're arguing that, because she likes witches, she also likes Halloween? If we don't know, why don't we just ask her? Hey, Maria. How are Halloween and witches related? As Badler asked that, George and Jessica let out a stifled, "Ugh," as they were trying to stop him, but too late. Maria might have been waiting for just that question. After beaming for an instant, her expression turned a little mean, as if to say, "You're totally clueless, aren't you?" It was the face of a hobbyist who'd been ticked off by an outsider saying something stupid about their favorite subject. To the Celts, the changing strength of the sun over the course of a year signified its birth, its growing up period, its aging and death, and then its arrival. I get it. In spring, the weak, warm sun starts to grow up and get hot, and then it gradually gets weaker and worn out. Sort of makes sense to think of it as a sun living out an entire life. Yes, so they thought that at the end of October, the sun died, was laid to rest in the land of the dead, and was then revived at the winter solstice. And then the name they gave to the day of the year when the sun ended its 1-year lifespan and died was Samhain, and they celebrated then. It's an interesting idea to think the sun is revived on the day of the winter solstice, when the daylight hours start to grow longer again. It's a case that makes it clear how much the ancients regarded the sun as sacred. I see. So what does that have to do with witches? It seemed that my casual urging forward had slightly infuriated Maria. She glared at me with eyes that told me to shut up while she explained. Maria seemed to be having a blast as she talked, so I decided not to interrupt. In the interval between October and November, life and death become the closest they ever will. The Celts believe that during this time the world of the living grew closer to the world of the dead and otherworldly beings, and many of those living in the other world would come to visit. It was like the Bon Festival in Japan. At the time, most people believed that the souls returning to the physical world would go into people's houses or possess people and do bad things. So in order to avoid harm, they performed rituals. One of those was to imitate creepy monsters and scare the souls back, which was apparently a way to avoid being possessed. That part became a festival, which turned into a costume parade. You really know a lot, don't you, Maria? Ain't it the truth? Even I never knew Halloween had such a history. But where did the whole trick-or-treat thing come from? Her knowledge was so extensive that the adults had suddenly started listening in too. Maria, who was normally treated like the youngest all the time, puffed out her chest with pride. Saying that this was just a kid's discussion, Rosa suggested the adults go on ahead and set their luggage down in the guest house, but nobody else agreed to go with her, and she let out a heavy sigh. Trick-or-treat is just for fun. It has nothing to do with what was originally a Celtic ceremony. That was created later when Christian customs were mixed in. However, I think it's right for Halloween to be that way. According to Maria, the souls of the dead weren't the only ones who visited from the non-human world. There were also spirits with intimate connections to people's everyday lives. Humans could receive favors from those spirits, so they'd managed to gain magnificent blessings, as well as a year's worth of good crops. So basically, Halloween was also a bit of a harvest festival. I get it. Now that you mention it, I guess October is a turning point in all kinds of ways, including with the seasons. Sort of the opposite of April in Japan. Yeah, that might be a good place to mark it. And also, the witches hold a witch assembly then called a Sabbath. The witches thank the spirits that give out blessings of prosperity and reward them. Halloween costumes imitate the guests that come from the other side. In other words, you might say giving out candy is a way to show gratitude for the yearly harvest. Just like George Oni-chan says. So Halloween is a time when those two worlds intermingle. In other words, it's the most important chance for witches to intermingle with guests from that world. Is that what you're trying to say? Just like Badler says. And you know what? October is when the power of witches and demons is at its most vigorous and prosperous. I'm sure Beatrice will come. And then we'll eat marshmallow candies together, and she'll bring me to the Golden Land with her. We'll sing magical songs together, learn magic spells together, learn how to draw magic circles together. And then we'll learn the secrets of runes, and I'll become a great witch really, really quickly. My, isn't that wonderful? It's best for kids to have dreams. By the way, Rosa, how old will Maria be again this year? Maria, that's enough of that. Don't worry about it, Rosa-san. It's a dream all girls have one time or another. Thank you very much. But Maria has already graduated from that age. Hey, I'm telling you to stop. Rosa scolded Maria, trying to shut her up before a cheery discussion about black magic earned her the snickers of the relatives. Oh? That sounds pretty detailed and impressive. By the way, who was Beatrice again? I know I've heard that name somewhere before. Adler had been gone for 6 years, and I'd completely forgotten about the legend of the Rokonjima witch. However, when he said he didn't know Beatrice's name, Maria's once bright mood soured in an instant. When he saw that, Badler immediately remembered that it was the name of the witch of this island, but the damage had been done. Until Maria's mood improved, she went on and on about many mysterious and fabulous episodes regarding the Golden Witch. That's enough, Maria. Thank you, Badler, for letting her chat with you. Kanin-kun, don't you have work to do? Please leave now. Goda-san, it looks like everyone wants to set down their bags for the time being. Sorry, but could you guide everyone to the guest house? Certainly. Well then, everyone, allow me to guide you. Then, if you'll excuse me. Goda led the relatives, and they began to head towards the guest house. They were eager to set down their luggage and take a breather, so they didn't realize that Rosa and Maria weren't coming with them. After watching them leave towards the guest house, Rosa's face changed suddenly. She let go of the hand that had been gripping Maria this whole time. There was a bright red mark there, making it clear how much excessive force she had been using on Maria's slender arm. That hand then slapped against Maria's head, pinched her left ear, and lifted. Even though I'm always telling you not to talk about witches, haven't I always said that was our promise together? Mama, ouch! Mama, ow, 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 ow! You really do like blabbering on about Halloween all the time, don't you? A festival for witches? Who cares about the Count's black magic and that idiotic trash? You're 9 years old, 9! Because of that scene you made in the train, I went to all the trouble of making a stop and buying you those disgusting monster marshmallows that look like they have fluorescent paint on them. I went out of my way to buy it, even though it made us late. How much more will you embarrass me before you're satisfied? As Rosa cursed, she twisted Maria's ear up, almost as though she was about to tear it off. An expression of anguish spread across Maria's face, while she frantically stood on her tiptoes, trying to soften the pain in that ear. Rosa suddenly grabbed the candy that Maria had been holding. She threw it on the ground and stepped on it, over and over. To Maria, it was supposed to be proof of a memory of a brief span of time when her mother had bought something fun for her. But now that same mother was grinding it into the ground right in front of her. It was as though a brand had been pushed into Maria's eyes, leaving a mark that could never be erased. What's the deal with this disgusting candy? Disgusting. Disgusting. It's because you're like that. It's all because you're like that. Disgusting. 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 As she said that, she struck Maria's head over and over again with her palm. She didn't hit Maria's face, because the red swelling would stand out. Maria closed her eyes tightly, patiently bearing her mother's violence. No, that wasn't quite it. Come back, Mama! Come back! Save me! Save me! Mama! Defeat the bad witch! She kept bearing Rosa's assault, muttering that over and over. Didn't I tell you to stop talking about witches? Why, you... Rosa, tired from hitting her daughter, breathed so hard her shoulders shook. Maria grasped her hands together, withstanding it, hoping her mother would return soon. Mama! Mama! Come back quickly! Save me, Mama! Beat the bad witch! Fine, just stay there like that forever. Just stand there, mumbling about witches and Halloween forever. After hurling those words at Maria, Rosa left in the direction of the guest house, leaving Maria behind. Maria, forgetting even that it was okay to cry, kept staring down at the jack-o'-lantern candy that had been trampled beyond recognition. Oh, Rosa, where were you? I'm sorry, the roses were so wonderful, Rosa, set your luggage down quickly and come with us. We're gonna say hi to Aniki. What happened to Maria-chan? Is she still by the flower beds? Yes. It seems she found a rose she likes, and insisted that she take care of it, refusing to listen. I decided to let her do what she wants for a while. We sometimes forget that girls have their own little world. Sometimes we have to respect that, right? That's right. Thanks for your concern, Kirine-san. Goda-san, where's our room? I will guide you. This way. Allow me to hold your luggage. I'll be fine. I can carry it myself, thank you. Rosa went into her room, guided by Goda. She then closed the door somewhat violently and threw her luggage on top of the bed. She got down on her knees in front of the bed, burying her face in it. For a while, Rosa made as if to shred the sheets with her fingernails, sobbing constantly. Maria-sama, are you alright? Cannon appeared from behind a thicket after watching Rosa leave. I'm fine. Maria gave a creepy laugh, but to Cannon, who had seen the whole thing, it looked like she was enduring as best as she could. She's a horrible person. I can't believe she's a mother. It can't be helped. You can't expect anything better than that to enter a container of that level. I'm just fine. Cannon got down on his knees and picked up the trampled candy. It was tragic just looking at it. He thought about dusting it off and returning it to her, but really couldn't do so with it in that condition. Just as he was wondering what to do, he met Maria's gaze. No, that wasn't quite right. Maria was looking at the candy Cannon had picked up. Right now, Maria's heart was surely the same as the candy that had been trampled to a pulp. Cannon realized this, but didn't know what he should do. That's right. I'll exchange it for the one I received earlier. Cannon remembered that a similar candy he received from Maria was in his pocket. Maria stuck out her hand. Cannon thought she was trying to take it, so he held out the candy, but Maria didn't try to grasp it. Then Cannon realized. She was saying, give it back. No matter how tragic and trampled it was, this candy was Maria's. Her mother had bought it for her. No matter how tragic, it had to be this candy and no other. If only it were intact enough that it could be fixed by dusting it off. Cannon hung his head. Dusting it off is the most I can do. I'm sorry. Cannon held out the miserable-looking candy Maria wanted. She took it and spoke. Thank you. A human can't do anything except dust it off, but a witch could restore it to how it once was. It would be easy for Beatrice. Maria-sama, you know about Beatrice, Sama. Except for Battler, there was no way anyone related to the Ushirime family could have failed to know Beatrice's name. But just now, Maria had bragged about Beatrice to Battler. She had spoken almost as though she was meeting with Beatrice regularly. Cannon felt a sharp pain inside his left hand, which was curled into a fist. In the past, a witch called Beatrice had appeared to tempt him and Shannon. He'd always tried to think of it as a bad dream. However, Shannon insisted it was definitely a real witch. And then this summer, the shrine to the local Shinto god was hit by lightning, disappearing without a trace over the span of a single night. He knew about Shannon breaking that mirror, and he remembered that, as the witch departed, she said she'd eventually be revived. And now, this girl, who believed absolutely in Beatrice, spoke as though she'd met Beatrice herself. Cannon couldn't suppress a vague sense of foreboding welling up in his heart. For a while, Maria remained silent, as though she could see into Kanen's heart. Almost as though she was waiting for a memory of Beatrice to be revived. And then she spoke, as though it was a fact. You know, I am friends with Beatrice. I'm even gonna meet her today and play. You're going to play? Yeah, of course we'll play. We're gonna study magic together. The face of that witch, whom Kanen had tried to pretend was a bad dream, began to slowly creep into the back of his mind. Father says he's extremely busy with his research. Unfortunately, it seems he'll be unable to come down. Come on. We put this conference in our schedules and come all the way out to Rokujima during this crazy busy fall season. You think Dad could at least be a little bit more sociable? Yeah, seriously. Dr. Nanjo, is it really his research and his mood that are the problem? He isn't already bedridden, unable to get up, right? Well, I wonder. There's not much I can say. Nanjo glanced at Natsui. It seemed as though it wasn't his place to speak without first getting Natsui's approval. Father's state of health is better than ever. It would be exceedingly rude to call him bedridden. But he only has 3 months left to live, right? Normally, wouldn't you expect him to be wasted away, unable to get out of bed? Isn't that right, Dr. Nanjo? For a normal patient, that would probably be the case. But Kinzo-san has extraordinary willpower. Perhaps that willpower has frightened even the Reaper away. Well, if he's that energetic, then I guess we have little to worry about for the near future, right? Though, if he's got that much spunk, I wish he'd at least come to greet us. Isn't the whole point of this family conference to come to see Dad's face? I'm not even sure why we came now. Don't say that. If he were here, you'd complain the whole time about being unable to relax. Shouldn't we celebrate the fact that all of us siblings have gathered this year to spend some time alone? We didn't get to see him last year's family conference either, right? Can't you understand why his blood children might want to see him after 2 years? If there's anything you'd like to say in greeting, I will tell him for you. Or, Eva-san, is there something you'd like to discuss with Father beyond merely greeting him? Come on, what are you talking about? Sheesh. Give it a rest, Eva. Natsui-san, forgive us. Eva's just worried about Father's condition as his daughter. Please try and understand how she feels. Indeed. Look how quickly you've grown to respect Father now that you know how much longer he has to live. Yes, I believe I do understand why you want to see him so much. What are you trying to say? Quit it, Anaki. Why don't we pray that his mood will improve by dinner? Anyway, we've only just arrived. For now, we're only here for a casual greeting. And we can even hold a family conference without Dad. In fact, there's a few things we siblings shouldn't bring to him until we formed a unified opinion. Isn't that right, Hideyoshi-san? Yep, just as Rudolph-kun says. This is the only time of year we can all meet in person. We've got to take this valuable time seriously and be frank with each other. Even though the tea hadn't yet arrived, they were very determined. But before that, perhaps we can spare the time to enjoy some black tea at our leisure, surrounded by the wonderful furnishings of the parlor. Kirie's words seemed to contain a subtle admonition directed at everyone gathered here. They all understood, and as they cleared their throats and straightened their neckties, the atmosphere in the room returned to normal for a time. Excuse me, I've brought some tea. Hey, Shannon-chan! You just keep getting prettier and prettier. Shannon entered the parlor, pushing the serving cart. Everyone decided to relax and enjoy some black tea for the time being. A wonderful aroma began to spread throughout the room. As far as anyone could see, the strained atmosphere from before Shannon's arrival seemed like a lie. Of course, Shannon, who was setting out the tea, probably didn't even notice. Kirie seemed to laugh faintly at how adult everyone was suddenly acting. Rudolph didn't like it when Kirie took the initiative and spoke at the family conference. It was his worthless male pride. He probably didn't want to look like a weak man who took advice from his wife. She understood that and did her best to refrain from saying any more than was necessary. So she separated herself from the circle of siblings, who only superficially appeared to be enjoying some time together alone, and casually drank her tea near a window. Oh, Rosa-san. I thought you siblings were enjoying some alone time. You must be joking. Sorry, don't take it the wrong way. I'm just a little exasperated by my husband. Apparently, Rosa hadn't been able to keep up with that on-the-surface friendliness. They come here to fight bloodily and dirtily, each trying to grab a part of the inheritance for themselves. She probably didn't like suddenly pretending that they were all chummy, or maybe she was still too immature for that. It looks like the wind's starting to blow hard out there. The plants are all shaking so much. The typhoon's probably getting pretty close already. I wonder if we'll see a lot of rain tonight. Maria-chan really has grown a lot this past year. Does it look that way? She still can't even fold her own clothing yet. No, it's true. It's because she has such an affectionate mother. She'll grow into a girl with a rich heart. Rosa fell silent. Maybe she was unsure as to what Kyrie meant by that. I'm a failure as a mother. Children don't get to choose their parents. That poor girl. Doesn't that go both ways? A parent can't choose what kind of child they have either. Rosa bit her lower lip. This isn't a matter of assigning blame. Isn't it enough that you take your time and watch over her as she grows, conscious of the fact that you'll be living together? You spend every day with Maria-chan, so you probably don't notice the small changes, but the rest of us who haven't seen her for a year can clearly see how much she's grown. If you really mean that, thank you very much. Then if you'll excuse me, if there's anything you desire, please call for it at any time. Shannon bowed politely and left the room. As Hideyoshi and Rudolph, who had a soft spot for women, watched her go, the atmosphere in the room began to revert back to what it had been right before Shannon's visit. If Father can't come down, well, that does leave us with certain things we can discuss. Right, Rudolph? Yep, that's right. We didn't come all the way out here just to drink some dusty tea, right? Very well. What is the matter you're clearly so eager to discuss? My, those people really are determined. They certainly got started quick. I need to join in too. If I don't assert myself, those people will quickly forget there are 4 siblings. Sounds like you've got it pretty tough yourself. Maybe I spoke too harshly. Forgive me. No, I don't mind. I'm the one who should be apologizing. As a pair of mothers with daughters, we should talk more often. Every single time we meet, we end up talking about something shady. You can blame the atmosphere in this mansion for that. Once you breathe in this air, everyone gets so strained. Just once, I'd like to have a nice long cup of tea with you when we aren't attending a family conference. There's a wonderful coffee shop in Ginja that's a favorite of mine. Please let me invite you sometime soon. Thank you, Kirie-san. That sounds great. Oh no, the sky's gotten dark pretty fast. I could almost believe the people in this room made the weather worse. There's already thunder. Oh, was that one there? Huh? There really were small splashes of rain on the glass of the parlor window. The weather seemed to have worsened faster than expected. Just then, a silent thunderbolt struck into Rosa's head, and she remembered that her beloved child was out in the rose garden. A normal girl would try to go inside if the weather got bad, but Maria was different. She would sometimes get stubborn and refuse to move if rain or even spears fell from the sky. That's right. I told that child to just stay there doing that forever, didn't I? Oh no! Maria! Everyone looked back at Rosa when she let out a small scream. What? What is it? I'm sorry, I'm going outside for a second. I'll be right back. What the? Seriously, what's going on with her? Don't worry, she'll be back soon. More importantly, shouldn't we begin? Our main topic. That's right, we can keep talking about that without Rosa. Let's return to our discussion. Hey, Electric Angel! Good to see you, thank you so much for coming by. Thank you so much for the raid, welcome everyone. Hey. Welcome to the stream, thank you so much for stopping by, hope you're doing well. Let me give you a shout-a-rooney. Everyone, please go follow Electric Angel. Not only she's a really cool streamer, she's an amazing artist too. You should check out her work. It's super cute and super pretty. Please go check her out when you get a chance. If you're not following her already, please go follow her. Electric Angel, thank you so much for the raid. Thank you for entrusting me with your audience. I really appreciate it. Welcome, everyone. Welcome. I'm Kiro, if you don't know who I am, and we're playing Umineko, which is a murder mystery visual novel. Oh, Lord Emperor, thank you so much for summoning Kirby and syncing our lips. This is Kirby, my little frog friend. And yeah, welcome. Thank you so much for coming by. Rosa dashed from the entrance hall into the rose garden. When she opened the door, the wind that hit her was too strong to be called a light breeze, and told her the typhoon was approaching faster than she thought. Just as Kiri had said, the wind was mixed in with small droplets of rain. There was also a low rumble of thunder. It could start raining any time. Rosa headed for the rose garden. She headed for the place where she had scolded Maria a short while ago. It was almost lunchtime. The children had been told to come to the mansion around lunchtime, so they were probably in the guest house, waiting to be called. Even if Maria didn't come to them, they would surely think I took her to the mansion with me, and wouldn't worry much. After all, she had been with her mother, so there should have been no reason to worry. I was here, and I abandoned my daughter to the worsening weather. Maria! Are you there? If you're there, answer me! I was right. She was still standing stock still, exactly the same way she had been in the place where I'd scolded her. Held in her hand was a candy I'd bought, given her, and then stepped on and crushed. With that gripped in her hand, she stood there as the powerful winds whipped her hair about, tormenting her. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Sorry, Maria. Forgive Mama. Mama, welcome back. I waited a long time for you to come back. The scary witch pinched me, but I stayed strong, waiting for Mama to come back without crying. Maria, forgive your Mama. Forgive your Mama. You didn't do anything wrong. You were just possessed by a bad witch again. So I'm fine. I really like you, Mama. I love you. Ah! I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Please forgive your Mama. For losing to the bad witch. Rosa buried her face in Maria's small chest, crying and begging forgiveness. And once again, those tears dripped down after who knows how many times. If only the brilliant sun had been shining on the two of them, all their cares would have evaporated, and it might have felt like they could begin anew. However, what surrounded the two of them was the worsening weather. Sadly, there were only fierce winds with occasional thunder. You're exhausted from stream, so you'll be lurking. Yeah, no problem. Eat up, rest up. You worked hard today, so please take some time to rest up. And thank you so much again for dropping by and for the raid. I really appreciate it. The sound of Maria sniffling brought Rosa to her senses. If Maria stood exposed to the wind for too long, she'd probably catch a cold. Okay, Maria, it's almost time for lunch. Why don't you come back to the mansion with me? Won't go. Why not? Rosa thought she'd already received Maria's forgiveness, so she hadn't imagined Maria would refuse. But that expression on Maria's face didn't look like that of a child resisting her mother. So Rosa couldn't understand why Maria wanted to stand still, pointlessly as the weather grew even worse. Maria answered that question. It's Beatrice! She'll be here really soon, so I'm waiting. Maria. Rosa struggled to find words for a moment, then fell silent. They'd only just managed to make up after all. She chose her words carefully, trying to get Maria to come with her to the mansion, without denying the witch outright. Beatrice is... coming? Really? Then instead of waiting here, why don't we wait in the mansion? If you stay in this wind too long, you'll catch a cold. She'll come! Beatrice will come! And when she does, I'll give her candy. I'll do trick-or-treat. I'll give her jack-o'-lantern marshmallow candy and say Happy Halloween! Maria pulled yet another sweet out of her handbag, moaning, Rosa was bewildered and didn't know what to do, as Maria started being difficult again. At that time, there was a sudden blast of thunder. It was probably a sign that this island had been sealed off by the storm, detached from common sense and reality. So after this moment, all common sense would probably cease to apply. The wind blew even stronger, and amidst that blizzard of scattered rose petals, a figure appeared, leaving Rosa unable to imagine that this was a scene from reality. It was probably, no, definitely, fantastical. After all, that shadow of a person was. Beatrice! Maria dashed over to the shadow. Normally, Rosa would scold her daughter if she dashed over to someone whom she hadn't seen before and didn't know. But Rosa forgot to do that, was unable to do anything but stand there, stunned. It's been quite some time. Have you been well? I've been well. Witches don't catch colds. Indeed, a witch can use curses to make people catch colds, but how foolish would it be if she caught one herself? From now on, you should take care not to catch something like a cold yourself. She patted Maria's head as she said this, smiling roguishly. Rosa couldn't have known the name of the woman who was happily spoiling Maria. However, Maria had called it out in the beginning when the woman appeared. So even though Rosa hadn't met her yet, even though the woman still hadn't introduced herself, Rosa was able to know her name. However, that name held a special meaning on Rokkenjima and in the Ushirimiya family. There's no way something that stupid could be. Beatrice! Happy Halloween! Look at what we bought! I'll give you one too, Beatrice. Indeed, happy Halloween. Oh, is this for me? How truly adorable that a candy will be made out of this, the lonely light of a man lost in the darkness of purgatory, unable to go to heaven or hell. Right now, on this island that has been cut off from both the world of humans and the world of non-humans, there may be no more suitable sweet. Maria, what's wrong with that one? The witch noticed the sweet Maria was grasping. It was Maria's candy, which had been stomped on by Rosa until it reached this pitiful state. Got stepped on and smashed. Can you fix it, Beto? Maria didn't go so far as to say it was her mother who'd stepped on it. However, for some reason, when the witch saw the candy, she looked at Rosa and grinned. A chill went down Rosa's spine, as though this gaze was staring straight through her. It shall be easy. Give it to me. Maria held the candy out gleefully. Rosa could do nothing but watch, stunned. How did this person plan to trick Maria, somehow undoing the fact the candy had been pitifully trampled? Maria looked as though she believed it could be fixed good as new. Without real magic, there was no way such a thing could be possible. My, it is quite crushed, isn't it? Come, Maria, close your eyes and try to remember. Because it really was that wonderful a candy. The candy of your memories is always full and fluffy, so you try to remember as well. What kind of candy was it really? Along with those strange words, spoken as though singing an improvised folk song, the witch threw the sweet into the air. Maria was closing her eyes and remembering, just as the witch had told her to. What shape had that crushed candy really had? Therefore, only Rosa saw that scene. The sweet had been thrown into the air, burst into a gold color. No, that wasn't it. Those were golden butterflies. It scattered into several golden butterflies and they began to gather at the witch's hand, which was held up to the sky. Hey Aramon, welcome to the stream. Thank you so much for stopping by. As she did this, unbelievably, it returned to its beautiful original form, no different from when it had been bought. Only Rosa and the witch witnessed that scene. Unable to comprehend what was occurring right before her eyes, Rosa stood with her mouth hanging open, completely forgetting to shut it. You may now open your eyes. Take it. With this, your sweet has returned to normal. Beatrice is always incredible. There was a stark contrast between Rosa's shock and Maria's innocent joy. Was that what the witch was laughing at? A smile floated to Beatrice's face, one different from the smile she'd shown Maria. Does my face seem familiar? If you stare so fixedly, you might burn a hole through it. I'm sorry. Those words triggered something very clearly in Rosa's mind. Rosa knew this face. She knew it from the portrait of the witch. But no, wait. Could this mystery woman really be? Maria, I give you this in exchange for the sweet you gave me. A letter? The witch pulled a western envelope from her pocket and gave it to Maria. However, when Maria made to open it, the witch stopped with her. You must not. The time will soon come for you to open it, but until then you absolutely must not. Take good care of it. That will be your invitation to the Golden Land. The Golden Land! So you'll finally take me there. Take it and treat it with care. You must not show it to anyone. I'll keep that a promise. You've always got to keep promises with witches. And this is for you. Huh? Me? She probably hadn't imagined the witch would speak to her too. Rosa was bewildered by the second Western envelope which was thrust before her. She'd seen this type of envelope before. There could be no mistake. It was one of Kinzo's special envelopes, used when he wrote with his own hand and bearing the Ushimiya family crest. It was sealed with red sealing wax, and furthermore it had a mark that seemed to have been made by the head's ring. In other words, even without asking what was inside this letter, Rosa knew that this woman, whom Maria called Beatrice, was trusted enough to be placed in charge of a personal letter of the current Ushimiya head. Yeah, she gives them the letter. They want me to be in Smash Brothers? It could have been any of the 4 siblings. However, the fact that I met you here probably means you were chosen by Kinzo's roulette. So take it, then read its contents aloud while seated at the dinner table when all the siblings are gathered. What did you say? Rosa looked back and forth several times between the witch's face and the envelope that had been handed to her. Today was a family conference, and the biggest object of discussion would be the inheritance problem. So she had joined together with Ava and Rudolph, and they planned to force a certain condition on Kraus to try and extort several hundred million yen in cash out of him. It was as if the witch could see through all of that. What does she intend to announce when all of us siblings are gathered? And with a personal envelope that no one but the Ushimiya head could use? Maria, the weather's getting worse. Return to the guest house and wait for lunchtime. And Rosa, we will meet again later. Allow me to introduce myself again at that time. The witch turned her back to her, laughing. Then she began to head out towards the manor with an air of composure. Maria energetically called out and watched her go, then began to dash towards the guest house, leaving Rosa behind. As though she wanted to inform the other cousins of her fortunate meeting with the witch as soon as she could. At last, Rosa was left alone in the rose garden as the winds grew stronger. Unable to do anything but pray that what had happened was just a daydream. When the witch reached the entrance hall, Genji could be seen there. Genji welcomed the guest approaching from the entrance hall with a respectful bow. I have been waiting, Beatrice-sama. It's been quite some time, Genji. Huh. You've gotten old. No matter how old it becomes, furniture carries out its work, like furniture until the end. I remember how that man's wife used to be jealous of you. Is Kinzo doing well? He's doing extremely well. Huh. The witch probably laughed because she knew Kinzo's own doctor had announced that Kinzo didn't have long to live. However, if anyone actually looked at Kinzo and noticed his vigor, which wasn't at all what you'd expect from someone nearing the end of his life, they might easily call that doing extremely well. Maybe that's what the witch was laughing at. Yeah, this episode's interesting because Beatrice is physically now on the island, and she'll talk about it with Battler later, but she's doing it because it changes the outcome of the way the game is played. Then let us go and greet him. I look forward to hurling curses at each other after 30 years. As the witch grinned, she started walking, leaving Genji behind. Her gait was like that of a family member who knew the inside of the mansion well. Genji followed her in the manner of one who served her. At that time, Kirie came out of the parlor. She'd probably gone out to fix her makeup or something. And when she saw Genji following a witch, she was surprised, although her expression did not change. A guest for Kinzo had arrived, despite him being almost dead, on the day of the family conference when the fate of the inheritance was to be decided. And furthermore, this person was familiar enough with the Ushimiya family household that Genji was following behind her. Kirie immediately realized that this person she had never met before was deeply important. Kirie and the witch's eyes met. Realizing that it would be rude to pretend not to notice, she greeted the witch. It's a pleasure to meet you. You were Rudolph's second wife, yes? Correct. This is Kirie-sama, Rudolph-sama's current wife. From this exchange, Kirie realized that this was a guest of fairly high rank, even amidst the Ushimiya family. And the fact that this guest was on that level, coupled with her resemblance to the portrait in the entrance hall, made Kirie's eyes instantly open wide. Pleased to meet you. I'm Kirie. I wonder if this is our first meeting. If we have met before, I apologize for forgetting your name. So, you intend to force me to state my name, even though you already have a vague idea of the answer. Kirie thought she'd given a sociable and humble greeting. Her expression grew slightly cloudy at that openly oppressive response. At any rate, this didn't seem to be a person she could grow to like. But if Kirie's guesses were correct, this witch probably held a vital key to what her own husband was most interested in, something that couldn't help but influence tonight's family conference. So without shooting back a retort, Kirie silently watched her go up the stairs to the second floor, with Genji following behind. So when someone tapped her shoulder from behind, she was so surprised she almost choked. It was Natsui. Kirie-san, why are you standing still in a place like this? Are you not feeling well? I'm sorry. I was just fascinated by the portrait of the witch for a bit. Oh, you mean the golden witch Beatrice, the one whose gold was supposedly necessary for the revived Ushimiya family we see today. Quite a fantastical story, just what one might expect from father. Natsui spoke in a perfectly ordinary way. It was the sort of comment you'd expect from someone convinced that the thought of a witch existing was ridiculous, no more than another of Kinzo's ramblings. However, for some reason that point of view didn't quite seem right to Kirie now. Just a moment ago, she herself had seen the Golden Witch come in from the entrance hall and climb up the stairs. So Natsui's words made it feel as though someone was trying to deny the existence of that person, or else make it seem like she was never there to begin with. I'm sorry, maybe I'm getting into a bit of a headache. I think I'll rest for a little while. Oh, is that so? Then I have some good headache medicine. I'll get it for you. The hallway in front of Kinzo's study was filled with the scent of sweet poison, peculiar to that green liquor. Genji, who was completely used to it, did not grimace. And the Golden Witch didn't grimace either. How long has he been in there since he last left? I believe it has been several years. Is he that desperate to turn me into a bird in a cage? How pitiful. By now, you're the bird in the cage. You're the ghost of the study, are you not? How pitiful that he's unable to recognize even that. Until he meets you again, he will probably continue his research, even after literally becoming a ghost. Is it love or madness or delusion? And yet perhaps even those can form magical power when strong enough. You sad magician. The witch grasped the doorknob to the study. When she did, there was a sound like that of flesh burning and splitting open. It was the sound of the doorknob literally burning the witch's hand. Beatrice-sama. What is this? A ward against magic? Is that person unable to get by without relying on something like this? I have heard this door would cause you great pain, Beatrice-sama. Shall I open it? No, it is fine. If he wins, I will be in a bird in a cage for all eternity. If he loses, only the life of a laughingstock will be left, the life of a pitiful magician who went mad with love and lost everything. Already, Kinzo and even I are nothing more than pieces laid out on the game board. All that is left is for the roulette to decide who wins and who loses. Until the roulette shows its result, there's no need for me and Kinzo to meet again. The witch looked at her hand, which was beginning to heal bit by bit, even though it had been horribly burned. Or perhaps that is why he has this ward here in the first place. Huh. Yes, perhaps even that is honorable in its own way. And now everything sits on top of Kinzo's game board. I like it, Kinzo. Allow me to enjoy my game with you. Allow me to enjoy the failure of the final gamble of the old magician who fell in love with me and threw away his entire life. Who is it? Excuse me. I have brought lunch. Enter. Excuse me. After receiving approval, Canon entered the VIP room, pushing the serving cart that carried lunch. The servants called this room the Witch's VIP room. That was because Kinzo strictly ordered that it always be kept clean, so it could be used at any time. Even so, guests would not be allowed into this room no matter who they were. That's why at some point the servants had started calling it the VIP room, which was supposed to be set aside only to welcome the special person Kinzo waited for, the witch from that portrait. And today, Canon realized that this was absolutely true. When he entered the room, the blonde-haired witch was gazing out the window. Outside, the rain was no longer falling weakly. As she looked out that beautiful rose garden, which had been tended to over several days for today's sake, as she saw the winds and rain ravage it, was she struck by some sentimental feelings. Canon was not able to tell anything more from her back, which faced him. I will prepare the meal, Beatrice-sama. Canon went out of his way to call out the witch's name, hoping that she'd turn around. He wanted to know. He wanted to know if the witch who tempted him and Shannon in the past had really appeared again. When he did, the witch whose name had been called laughed, her back still facing him. Holding back her voice, she laughed. Canon was startled. It was almost as though she had read his mind and knew that he had called out to her, hoping to make her turn around. It smells good. It appears Kraus hired a good cook. Yes, he is called Goda and was employed here recently. There's nothing better than being skilled at cooking. Delicious food completes the 3 pillars of pleasure for living in the human world. It is the secret to preventing boredom after 1,000 years. Canon and the witch's eyes met. Then she grinned. Without a doubt, certainly, this was clearly the witch from that day, Beatrice. The witch that no one but he and Shannon could see in the past finally held a form, and had arrived openly as a guest through the entrance hall. Beatrice-sama. It has been a long time, Canon the furniture. It has been quite some time. Canon tried to remember to be polite to this guest for the time being, but the visit of this suspicious witch made dark clouds start to enshroud his heart, especially considering that today was a family conference. You appear to be uneasy about what I plan to do, now that I appeared. Am I right? Canon didn't force an answer. This witch probably read minds. Or this witch probably reads minds, so it's pointless to go to the trouble of saying it out loud. Of course, she could read even his inner resistance. So the witch giggled at Canon's childish defiance. I came to fulfill my final promise with Kinzo. Your final promise with the master. I lent Kinzo a mountain of gold. When Kinzo gives that up, it will be returned to me with interest. I came to accept that interest tonight. I don't know what you're talking about. However, uncertainty began to gather in his heart. Whatever this witch had to say, it couldn't be anything good. There's no mistake. Whenever witches have something to say, it's never anything good. You are correct. However, like scissors, the potential of witches depends entirely on how they're used. Sometimes there are those like King Solomon, who succeed in great exploits. However, most who make use of us end up meeting a cruel fate, just like in fairy tales. But Kinzo is crafty. He has incorporated even my collection of the interest into his ceremony. Is he an absurdly powerful magician who can surpass even me? Or else a mere fool possessed by madness? Amusing. Truly amusing. Cannon couldn't guess what the witch was muttering and laughing about. All he knew was that anything that made this witch laugh must have the exact opposite meaning for everyone else. And in the back of his mind, the horrifying words the witch had spat at him in the past began to resurface. What, did you think I'd lend you my power and ask for nothing in exchange? I'll gladly assist a pair in love. In exchange, I'll enjoy watching the cruel fate they'll eventually meet. I've never come across a better show, not over the course of 1,000 years. Could it be that you... Behold, the Sweetfish River running through my beloved hometown. You who seek the Golden Land, follow its path downstream in search of the key. The witch suddenly began to recite a bizarre poem. It was something he remembered hearing. Could it be the witch's epitaph? There was no mistake. It was the epitaph that accompanied the portrait of the witch Kinzo had put on display. The relatives had guessed that it referred to the location of the hidden gold, but no one knew what it meant for sure. The witch suddenly began reciting that epitaph. Canon. Since you are furniture, I imagine you've heard about it from Kinzo. The day when everything will be returned to the Golden Land has come. Rejoice! The day when you will be freed from the shame of living as furniture has finally arrived. I believe you wanted that for a long time. To furniture, which finds no value in its own existence, merely existing day to day must be nothing but agony. To those with souls, this world is worth clinging to, but those without souls find this world to be full of nothing but suffering. Complicated expressions flitted across Cannon's face. This was the day of release that Cannon had been looking forward to. However, the coming of this day had been mercilessly sudden. And for some reason, he didn't like that hateful tone used by this witch, as she informed him of the coming of this long-awaited day of rest. Cannon couldn't even decide what emotion he should be feeling. Why do you not rejoice? Could you actually have some regrets left in the real world? As mere furniture? I have no regrets, because I am furniture. You truly are a model specimen of furniture. How nice, how nice. However, it won't be any fun if you have no regrets at all. Are you saying regrets are how you find pleasure? That is correct. Most witches who live for 1,000 years get tired of life. In order to escape boredom, I adorn people's faces with fruit and brandy and cook them like cakes. I find humans dancing through oppressive fates inside an oven to be so very entertaining. You see, I'm actually a tad famous in this regard. So much so that rare guests come from far away to see my skill at cooking. Perhaps this is something that mere furniture cannot understand. Cannon couldn't understand what the witch was saying. However, he fully realized this was a terrifying being who treated the fate of humans as a show, enjoying it whenever some harm befell them. However, furniture has no soul or life, much less a fate. Pitiful furniture does nothing but serve until the day they are released from the real world. To furniture like that, the witch, who had come to release them from everything, was a being to be received with overflowing affection. Even though the day Cannon should have been waiting impatiently for had come, he was confused by his own inability to accept it easily. Why was that? The face of Shannon, the person he loved as a sister, rose to his mind, and for some reason Jessica's face did too. Ugh. Cannon bit his lower lip hard enough that it hurt. Thinking about Jessica like that was something furniture must never do. Even though he thought he'd known that, even though he'd complained about Shannon's relationship, why was it that Jessica rose into his mind at a time like this? He felt a little shameful at his own naivety. And to forget about Jessica, he turned his thoughts to Shannon. Shannon is also furniture. She has no reason not to rejoice at the coming of the day when all will return to nothingness. But Shannon, through her relationship with George, has experienced an emotion forbidden to furniture. Even though she isn't qualified to be bonded with him, she's still trapped in a dream that she isn't allowed to have. Will Shannon be able to joyfully accept this development? No, she won't. Shannon still has lingering regrets. Those will probably become a great source of pain and torture for her. And those lingering regrets were planted by none other than this witch. Why? Because that would be more interesting. Nothing more. This day, that Shannon should have been waiting impatiently for, will probably be a harsh burden for her, giving her emotions that she must never experience. I thank you for granting us, furniture the day of our release. And I hate you for making this day so difficult for Shannon to accept. I wanted to make you suffer from your regrets as well, just like Shannon. However, you continue to live like furniture, with foolish honesty never getting ensnared by me. And yet it seems you love Shannon a little too dearly, right? Shannon's regrets are now your regrets. Will those feelings transform into hatred for me? If you wish to kill me, give it a try. As Kinzo's furniture, you should have at least that much power, right? However, if you kill me, then the day of rest for furniture will not come for all eternity. Could you bear to live with that? Are you truly capable of resisting when I try to release you? Kneel. What? Kneel and kiss my shoes. Otherwise, I will leave this place. I'll go back and never show myself again for all eternity. So, Canon, do you think you could bear to live like that? Ugh. If the door to the Golden Land is opened, your hard life as furniture will end. If you desire, I can even give you life as a human. After that, you will be on the same level as Jessica. Surely you want to experience the taste of love. There's no point in trying to hide it. After seeing Shannon indulging in the sea of sweet love, you grew jealous. You are sorely tempted to know the taste of love. Stop it. Stop it. Are you trying to ensnare me again? I won't be reduced to a toy for your amusement. Huh. Then I'll be satisfied with Shannon alone. After all, you aren't the only one who is implanted with a seed. Even fruiting plants sometimes fail to bear fruit after all. The one who obtains the key must then travel to the Golden Land in accordance with these rules. On the first twilight, offer the 6 chosen by the key as sacrifices. On the second twilight, those who remain shall tear apart the 2 who are close. The witch recited the epitaph again. It was so sudden and diverged so strongly from the current topic. However, that challenging smile made it seem almost as though she was using that epitaph as a threat against Canon. Do you not understand? For the ceremony of the epitaph to succeed, at the second twilight, 2 who are close must be offered as sacrifices. It could be any 2 who are close. A husband and a wife. Or even a pair of lovers. According to the rules of the ceremony, who will be selected is up to me to decide on a whim. Don't you think there could be no more fitting sacrifice for the second twilight than Shannon as she is now? You dirty. Canon realized something. Until today, he thought he'd given up everything else and lived as furniture, acting like furniture. But in reality, that wasn't true. He loved Shannon too dearly. Therefore, when Shannon was in pain, Canon shared in that. If only Shannon had continued to live as furniture. Indifferently like Canon, without any regrets in this world, he wouldn't have had to be in so much pain. The witch planned to toy with Shannon, who had known the taste of love. No, whom she had taught the taste of love, as she killed her. She wouldn't be welcomed into the Golden Land and granted a compassionate release. Instead, if the witch had her way, she'd be used as a sacrifice, subjected to the utmost of torture and pain, and forcibly turned into a human foundation for this evil ceremony. And this witch would probably make Shannon meet this horrible fate, for no reason other than it was amusing for her. Furthermore, she was threatening to do this, so that she could make Canon, who never submitted to the witch, finally give in. It was that simple. In the end, though he had tried to resist the witch and avoid pleasing her, he'd only made things more amusing for her. After all, he was furniture. No, a toy. They were nothing but toys meant only to distract her from her boredom. Damn. What will you do, Canon? If you kneel, I might refrain from choosing Shannon as a sacrifice, see? I've always wanted to make a toy like you surrender someday. Without even a fragment of elegance, the witch sneered at Kanon and laughed indecently. That's right, she predicted Kanon's submission even before he made that decision himself. Ugh. Kanon chose to get down on both knees in front of the witch. It didn't matter what happened to himself. However, the one he couldn't bear to see was Shannon, who had given him his only reason to live during his days as furniture being toyed with like this. That was why kissing the shoes of the witch was an easy oath for Kanon to make. With his quivering lips actually touched the witch's shoe, Beatrice let a look of ecstasy rise to her face, then laughed with a voice filled with bursting. Hey Giuliano, welcome so much to the stream, or welcome to the stream. Thank you so much for following me. Thanks for being a Froggy fan. I really appreciate it. Welcome, welcome. At that moment, the witch who had grown bored of life after 1,000 years was completely filled with the evil emotion that she lived for. Yeah, thanks again, Julian. I really appreciate it. Make yourself comfortable. When lunch ended, the relatives moved to the parlor. Rosa had bought a high-class brand of black tea from a famous store in Ginja. That had been served, and the parlor was filled with a pleasant aroma. Since the children were there too, the adults tried to interact like normal relatives on the surface, talking peacefully about recent events and how their children were growing up. It had started raining, so the children couldn't do anything but sit here, like this, watching TV, unable to go outside. Maria was apparently a TV kid, and she kept watching a boring daytime program without getting bored, giggling all by herself. At first, Balor joined in, seeming to deepen his relationship with Maria. But he had gotten up early that morning and was gradually hit by a wave of drowsiness. Ah. Oh, that's a big yawn. Did you get up really early this morning? Well, something like that. Now that all the tension's gone, I've started getting sleepy while listening to the sound of the rain. Tension? Huh, you call freaking out like this tension? At least it is for me. Balor gave another great yawn and slowly lay down on the sofa. He really did look tired. George and the others had tried talking to him, thinking it was a sign of boredom, but when they realized he was really sleepy, they decided to let him be. My. They say that if you lie down right after eating, you'll become a mackerel. Oh. Stop kidding around. Goda-san said we'd be having calf steak tonight. I'd make it mackerel steak. Kumasawa-san, he looks pretty tired. Could you get him a blanket? Oh, here you go. Kumasawa brought a blanket over from the shelf. The large parlor wasn't cold, but the air had gotten a little chilly. So when Balor took the blanket, he immediately wrapped himself up like in a turtle. You really were sleepy. When would you like to wake up? I'll wake you. Can't say I've got any particular requests. You can wake me up if you need something from me. And if you don't, just let me sleep forever. Night. Balor's sleeping. A nap? A nap? I'll do it too. Hey, Maria. Balor's sleepy, so you gotta leave him alone. Kumasawa-san, could you get us another blanket? It was doubtful whether Maria really wanted to take a nap. She probably saw Balor wrapped up in a blanket and wanted to do the same. When she received the blanket from Kumasawa, she joyfully wrapped herself up in it and set up camp again in front of the TV. Sheesh. Just when we finally gathered all the cousins together after 6 years. This guy doesn't have a clue that he's the main guest of this family conference, does he? I can still hear you. We took it easy eating lunch. There's even a typhoon and rain outside now. Since I got nothing to do, that means it isn't my turn yet. I wonder about that. If you have a passive attitude like that and never do anything unless something else happens, your life will be pretty boring, right? No, that's not what I mean. How should I put it? At times like this, I like to think about it this way. It isn't my turn. If this was a play, it wouldn't be my turn to go on stage. So the best thing to do is to stay on the wings of the stage. You're always the main character of your own life, right? Why are you acting like you're in a supporting role? You've got to move forward by yourself and get up on the stage. That's not what I mean. I'm trying to say it's not my turn yet. Sorry, I'm sleepy and my mind's a mess. Give me a break. No kidding. You're so sleepy you're spouting nonsense. Let's leave him be for now. Hey, I can't let him get away with saying crap like that. You're always the main character in your own life. I've got serious issues with what Badler's saying. He's just half asleep. Don't take him too seriously. It's just that lack of guts. You know, not wanting to go on stage just because you think you can't be the main character. Something about it just pisses me off. With distant eyes, Jessica gazed out the window at the grey rose garden obscured by rain. When she put her forehead up against the glass, the pleasantly cool sensation seemed to chase away memories she was trying to forget. So it just wasn't your turn yet, is that it? Then just when will you get up on the stage? In that case, who the heck is the main character on this stage? Dang it, it's like you could think you could do whatever you want. What the hell is all this? It's all screwed up. I was merely amused that your reason for denying me was based on whether there were 18 or 19 people. I just tried changing my opening move, no more. Your greatest basis for denying me is simply I wasn't laid out as a piece on the game board. So all I have to do is start by focusing on the queen, like this. Isn't opening the road for the queen on your first turn one of the classic moves in chess? Now quit playing around. There's no way I can accept something like this, right? A witch came in walking right through the entrance hall, as you say? Don't mess with me. What's this? In the last game, I gave you incredible freedom in making your moves, correct? This time, all I'm doing is moving my pieces in response to your moves. Are you already giving up right at the start? Bastard. Don't mess with me. Like hell I'd give in. Great move. Go ahead, just move however you like. Okay, so your turn's far from over, is it? Move however you want. Form a huge battle formation while you still can. I'll definitely withstand you. I'll definitely corner you. Come at me as best as you can. I don't want you to have any weaknesses, or any excuses. You aren't even close to making me accept something like a witch. That's right, just now, it looked like Maria's candy was fixed with magic. But you might have actually had another one of the same candy hidden in your pocket and switched them with that little show, making it only look like you fixed it with magic. Yeah, that's right, that has to be it. It's useless, it's all useless. Oh, Rosa saw the moment when the candy split into butterflies, correct? Who cares about that? That was a hallucination or a trick, or maybe she just saw it wrong. That isn't a big problem. So you throw out the part you can't explain, it's trivial. I see, is that your move in response to mine? You've dug your own grave, Ushimiya Badler. It still isn't your turn yet. Allow me to make my move for a little longer. It has barely begun. The turn of the witch. When they started hearing Badler's snores, the relatives went their separate ways, leaving the parlor and letting Badler sleep in silence. Even though it had been so lively in the parlor with so many people gathered there, when all of them scattered at once or were swallowed up by the vast mansion, it created an eerie silence, with no sound except that of rain. Nope, I haven't met a person like that even once. Aniki? I haven't met them. Kirio-san, is that true? Even I only greeted her briefly when she came into the entrance hall. She looked like she was a bit over 20. I told her my name, but she didn't tell me hers. She was being guided by Genji-san, and I saw her go up to the second floor. So it'd probably be faster to find Genji-san and ask him directly. Still, what a strange turn. The mystery woman had spoken to Kirie. Without naming herself, she'd sneered that Kirie should have had a vague idea as to her identity. That brought someone to mind. And then there was her look-alike, the witch in the portrait. Was this person trying to say she was the witch of the portrait herself? I realized she was probably laughing at me for that reason. Even though it was our first meeting, she spoke as though she knew I'm your second wife. Aniki, you really don't know anyone like that. You talk too much. I've never seen a blonde woman like that go out in or out of this mansion. That kind of thing doesn't matter. The problem is what happens if that woman starts calling herself Beatrice, if she starts calling herself the manager of father's assets. Or maybe she plans to call herself his mistress's daughter and demand she get a share of the inheritance. Either way, we've had one heck of a joker slipped into the deck. Did Nissan bring her here? Or did father? This is bad. We thought we could manage something if we could corner Aniki in our talks, but this takes us back to square one. I don't know what kind of schemes you've been making when I'm not around, dear, but it looks like we've been given a little time to form a counter-strategy. Yeah, better to have some time to prepare than to have the blonde-haired Nanchan suddenly appear at the dinner table and scare the shit out of us. Until we know why she's appeared, there's a limit to the kinds of counters we can make. What could she be after? Isn't it obvious? She's going to claim she's the rightful heir to father's inheritance. Father is still captivated by Beatrice. If he had a daughter with her, you could bet that he'd want to leave all this fortune to her. She might even thrust some strange will in front of us. If we take it to court, we could probably claim a quarter of a half of it, but it'd probably be impossible to divvy out the inheritance until that's settled. We can't have that. I can't, and neither can you, Rudolph. And the same goes for Rosa, right? Each one of us needs to gather money quickly for our own reasons, and it's our biggest weak point. So, what are they after? Kyrie, can you guess? This is all news to me, but it sounds like we're starting from the premise that we've got an urgent need to collect money, right? Ugh. Kyrie-san, in a man's business, you sometimes need funding when you're on the offensive. Please understand that. What's this, Rudolph? You didn't tell Kyrie-san about it? Sorry, I wasn't really hiding it. Actually, it was kinda... It's alright. If you decided this wasn't something you needed to tell me about, I won't press you about it right here. What's more important is finding out what this golden witch is after, right? Yeah. Now that you know what we know, can you see how the enemy might come at us? Rudolph had a certain measure of trust in Kyrie's unique thinking technique, chessboard thinking. Of course, it didn't give him any more peace of mind than fortune-telling, but every time Rudolph was polishing up some important strategy, he'd give a great deal of thought to Kyrie's advice. For a while, Kyrie pressed her finger against her forehead, considering. Judging by the fact that her arrival was kept hidden until today, she must be planning to catch us by surprise in some way. We can't tell for sure whether she's after assets or being recognized as a relative. However, her coming here was kept secret until today, which probably means she didn't want us to take any measures against her, something we might have done if we'd known beforehand. So her goal is probably something that could be hindered if we were to take measures against her. Understand? I get it. So if she had a will that father had already written, or something that could prove she's a blood relative. If she had some unshakable, rock-solid proof like that, you'd think she'd announce it beforehand. That's right. On the contrary, since we're in a position to doubt her, she should have brought a lawyer or an expert, and thrust some completely undeniable proof before us. If she could. So the mere fact that she's launching a surprise attack shows that our foe can't win with a frontal assault. Makes sense. If a trump card can win no matter what, it's best to play it out in the open. If you play it in a roundabout way, it might end up weakening its impact. Skipping to the conclusion, we can probably expect to be faced with some huge surprise, something related either directly or indirectly to the inheritance problem that's on everyone's minds. Our opponent probably plans to overawe us simply by the impact of the shock. However, no matter how great the impact might be, it cannot be absolute. In other words, we have enough leeway to take advantage of this. You really got brains. Even understanding just this much is really reassuring. In other words, you're telling us not to get sucked into our opponent's pace. In the end, it's an extremely simple conclusion. No matter what our opponent brings up, we should deal with it calmly without rushing things. This is just the very first step in the art of negotiation. You really can't say you've predicted your opponent's thoughts with just this. Come on. Just like usual, that was pretty good. Now that we've got a little leeway to act, it helps us relax a bit. What we don't know is how she's connected to Kraus Nissan. Will it be a surprise for Kraus Nissan too, or was he actually the one who called her here in the first place? If that's the latter, that might make things very troublesome. That's right, secretly calling a mystery woman on the day of the family conference. It would be a terrible taste, but it does feel like something Nissan would do. Aniki, let's do this. As long as she can't clearly prove her identity, we won't accept her position in any way. That would be for the best. Already she's refused to introduce herself to Kirie-san. We can't let our conference be disturbed by the statements of some unknown woman. She might even show us proof she's a blood relative. If she can prove father's blood runs through her veins, like with a maternity record document, there's nothing we could do. It's always possible to suspect that physical evidence has been faked. And even if it's real, in order to prove that the person in the documents is the person we see, we need to check their condition at a hospital. At the very least, it'd be impossible to prove that now on Rokkenjima. You're right. So in other words, it's something like this. No matter what's shown to us now on Rokkenjima, it can't be accepted as truth. We can't believe anything until the typhoon passes, and they prove it to us at a proper place. Spotting all kinds of holes and stuff like this is Aniki's specialty. We'll be counting on you. Are you joking? You'll be helping too. We need the money. We need it quickly and a large sum. Our fates are all tied together in this. As if we just stand by and let some suddenly appearing mystery woman destroy the inheritance we're after. Rudolph and Ava always formed a united front as siblings at times like this, sickened by the idea that their own inheritance might be snatched away by an outsider. Kirie noticed how indomitable they looked, shook her head slightly and gave a small sigh as she gazed out the window. Outside, it was still raining heavily and everything was grey, having lost all vibrance. The lush garden that the sun had shone on earlier now felt like a lie. For some reason, the words Ava said a second ago kept repeating in Kirie's head. So in other words, it's something like this. No matter what's shown to us now in Rokkenjima, it can't be accepted as truth. There was an odd nuance to those words. At that moment, the island was closed off by the typhoon and isolated. They had access to no public institutions and no hospital. So on this island, no matter what manner of proof related to the outside world is shown, it would always be possible to call it a lie. It would be impossible to prove that something was the truth. Now that they were isolated from the outside, all truths whose proof lay in the outside world would be called lies. So does that mean that right now, on this Rokkenjima, no truth exists at all? Does it mean that everything will now be ruled by lies alone? It almost gives the illusion that we've left the human world of truth and have been shut away inside another world, one of lies. Hey Aru, welcome to the stream! Thank you so much for coming by. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Kirie remembered that woman's appearance one more time. She remembered both what she had looked like and the witch of the portrait. On this island which had been cut off from the world of humans and shut away in the world of non-humans, a non-human being has come to visit. Kirie couldn't think of that smile that had appeared on the woman's face as anything other than portent of misfortune. I get the feeling my chessboard thinkings missed a vital premise, one that'll be necessary to understand that misfortune-bearing smile. Yes, that smile made me feel as though someone inhuman was mocking me. I based my reasoning on the assumption that our opponent is human like the rest of us. However, just like this island is now, she may be a being that isn't human, and human values may not matter to her. If that's true, all of our reasoning is useless. For what reason has the witch been invited here today? Only one thing is certain. Now, in this instant, she's staying somewhere in this vast mansion. Maria, around lunchtime today, we met her outside, right? A woman. Who was she? I said it over and over. Beatrice! Maria, did you ever meet Beatrice before that? I've met her every year. Every year? In this mansion on Rokkenjima? I don't know what means. Is that true? Yes. How long have you been meeting her? How many years ago did it start? I don't know. You don't know? What do you mean? Was it last year? 2 years ago? Longer than that. Rosa was astonished. Only the Ushimiya family mansion existed on this island, so there couldn't have been any humans other than themselves here. Yet Maria said she'd been meeting with this suspicious woman every year during the family conference. If what Maria said was the truth, then that strange woman called Beatrice had been at the family conference every year. That's insane. If Maria's saying that eerie woman was at the family conference every year, and none of us ever noticed it? Even though Rosa had just met the woman herself a couple hours ago in the Rose Garden, she was overcome with a strange emotion that told her not to accept that existence. What in the world did I meet with earlier today in the Rose Garden? As the typhoon grew near and the winds roared. Maria, you said you've met with her every year. What do you two do when you meet? We sing songs and learn magic. And I learned how to draw magic circles. Really? That's incredible. Maria, you often draw scribbles. I mean, magic circles in your notebook, right? Did she teach you that too? You know what? Beatrice drew examples to teach me. Come on, look. Maria joyfully fished around in her handbag. Then she drew out a single notebook and began opening to that page. Most of the pages were covered with drawings that were literally scribbles. All of them were occult-like things. And while it may sound rude to Maria, who was joyfully flipping through the pages, they were all creepy. Look here! Beatrice drew it! Each one of the pages in the group Maria opened to had an eerie magic circle. Furthermore, at a glance, Rosa could see that Maria hadn't drawn them. The strength of the strokes, the thickness of the lines, how clean the shape was. By itself, it wasn't enough to guess the background of the person who had written it, but it was enough for Rosa to be sure it was someone older than Maria. Yeah, she's got a Phasmophobia ghostwriting book. Maybe Maria's just a good ghostbuster. Rosa had to accept it now. There really was a person on this Rokonjima that she herself hadn't known existed until now. And this person had come to the family conference every year to play with Maria. Maria, does the witch Beatrice live here? Or does she live outside the island like us? Beatrice is the witch of Rokonjima, so she lives on this island. So you're saying she's on this island even on days when it isn't the family conference, right? I don't know what means. Yes or no? Yes. What in the... I can't believe it. How long has this unknown witch been living on this island? I used to live on this island. I lived on this island passing the time in the mansion, in the Rose Garden. And even so, I never encountered a witch like that. Right? Mama, what's wrong? Mama? My head hurts. I was probably getting a little mixed up with my memories from when I was a young girl. When I was young, I was terrified of the witch, unlike Maria. So for me, the name Beatrice was a synonym for terror. Surely my fear from those days had been revived by the appearance of a woman going by that name. She can't be a witch. She's obviously a human calling herself Beatrice, right? That's right. That witch entrusted me with an envelope. What in the world could that be? Rosa pulled that western envelope out of her pocket. It was one of the envelopes that bore the Ushimiya family crest, which Kinzo used for his personal letters. And its red sealing wax had even been sealed by the head's ring which Kinzo held, which meant that this envelope belonged to the Ushimiya family head. In other words, it was from father. Why was a woman calling herself Beatrice holding it? And why did she give it to me? That's right. I'm sure she said to read this aloud at dinner. What in the world could be written inside? A sense of uncertainty gripped Rosa, as if opening this envelope might let loose incredible misfortune. However, at the same time, a little curiosity sprouted up too, urging her to find out what was written inside before the other siblings could. Using common sense, one might guess that it contained a huge decision somehow related to father's inheritance. Actually, since she received it from a woman who called herself Beatrice, there simply had to be some connection. Does it mean that this person wants, not just the 4, but a whole of 5 people to be included in the inheritance? I need a large sum of money, and I can't wait long. I feel like such a sinful daughter for discussing father's inheritance while he's alive. But this is no time to spout off cheap ideals. And I've even colluded with Rudolf Nissan and Eva Nessan in order to get some money out of Kraus Nissan. Coming from that position, I can't help but see the appearance of the witch as a sign of approaching misfortune. What could be written in here? I'm sure it's something frightening. Shall I read it secretly myself first? The witch requested it be read at the dinner table with everyone gathered. But if that's what she wanted, why couldn't she just read it aloud herself at dinner? Why should she go through all the trouble of entrusting it to me? Simply put, is it because she doesn't mind if I read it secretly beforehand? It'd be better to secretly read the contents first. I understand that means breaking my promise, but this is no longer the time for cheap ideals. Depending on the contents, I should probably discuss it with Ava Nesan and Rudolph Nissan too. They're always really good thinkers when it comes to this kind of thing. When I gulped, I put my hand to the red sealing wax. Something suddenly pulled on my sleeve and I let out a small scream. What? Maria? Don't scare me like that. What is it? You mustn't. Huh? In Maria's expression was the same portent of misfortune she'd felt from the witch, and it sent a tingle up her spine. Beatrice told Mama to read that letter during dinner. You mustn't break a promise with a witch. That's not it. I just want to look at the envelope for a second. I'll keep my promise. After all, I always tell you to keep your promises. Of course I keep my promises. Yes, Mama's a good girl. That laugh. It isn't cute, so stop it. Come to think of it, you received a letter too, Maria. What was written inside? I haven't opened it. Beatrice said I mustn't open it until the time to open it comes. So I'm taking good care of it. I see. You listen well to what Beatrice says, don't you, Maria? I am Beatrice's disciple, so I listen well to what my teacher says. I see. Rosa realized something. Mixed in with Maria's gaze was the glint of someone that wasn't her. If Rosa broke the rules and opened the envelope here, Beatrice would definitely learn of it. Because Maria was the witch's disciple. Maria was in contact with that witch. I'll keep my promise, so tell Beatrice not to worry, okay? I'll tell her. Hey, Maria, if I want to speak with Beatrice, how could I meet her? I don't know. Beatrice is very fickle, so she always appears suddenly. I don't know a way to get her to meet me. But you know, she's always watching me. So if I get in trouble, she'll definitely come and save me afterwards. She's definitely erased her form, and is hiding close to me. Don't I always tell you to stop laughing like that? Rosa reflexively hit Maria on the head. That put a stop to Maria's laughing, but it wasn't able to erase the color that had risen to those eyes, a color that seemed to bear a portent of misfortune. Rosa swore. She swore that at least until they left this island, she would not leave Maria alone. She couldn't allow an unknown being to make direct contact with her daughter any longer. Maria still hasn't come back. I wonder if she's getting scolded by Aunt Rosa again. Ever since they met Maria at the airport, she's been romping around, chatting about Halloween the whole time. But maybe she'd cut loose a little too much, acting a little too boisterous on the boat during lunch, because Rosa had cautioned her several times. And at times like that, Aunt Rosa tended not to scold her much in front of people. More often, she would take Maria aside and scold her alone. So since Maria has been called off somewhere, they figured she must be getting scolded. When they looked at the clock, they realized it was almost 6 o'clock. Of course, they couldn't imagine she'd been getting scolded all this time. Maybe it was time for some anime she watched every week to start. She probably hadn't left the mansion's parlor. Maybe Battler-sama woke up, and they've been playing together. After all, Maria-chan thinks of Battler-kun as a new friend. She must have had a lot of fun when she played Halloween with Battler-kun at the airport. Battler looked like he was having a lot of fun himself. Maybe he's gotten big, but he hasn't changed a bit. That's true. I get the feeling Battler-sama was gracious enough to remain as he was 6 years ago. Shannon, do you remember what he was like back then? Yes, because he was, well, very energetic. I also remember the four of us playing together 6 years ago. Shannon acted a lot like a big sister back then. That's right. I get the feeling she was even more dependable than she is now. Back then, I didn't truly understand my place, so I did quite a few rude things. Don't worry about understanding your place in that sense. When you're on the job is one thing, but when you're taking your break with us, like now, I'd rather you stay and be friendly, just like the old days. That's right. There's nothing wrong with acting differently, depending on whether you're the servant Shannon or the off-duty Sayo. You aren't a slave, you're just working as a servant, right? I think of you, Shannon. No, Sayo, as my oldest friend. Thank you very much, milady. It seemed that Shannon understood the hidden meaning behind Jessica's words. After all, she'd heard a bit about Jessica and Canon's history from both of them. Apparently George had heard something of that history too. He walked towards the window and looked up at the darkening rainy sky. Canon may still be childish in some ways, but I think he's starting to grow in a bit his way of thinking. Well, come on, quit it already. Well, I guess I let myself get swept away by the mood once or twice. You know, after watching you two, I might have gotten a bit jealous, feeling like I was getting left behind. But forget about me. More importantly, how's it going between you two? Looks like it's going pretty good, huh? I wonder. Yes, it's going very well. Shannon was lost for words, her face red, when George answered brightly and immediately. That carefree attitude made it easy to see their relationship was proceeding so perfectly it'd make anyone envious. Dang, I'm jealous. So does that mean Shannon's gonna resign and have a party soon? I wonder. Oh, this is a good question. I wonder what she'll say. George laughed teasingly as though pressing Shannon for an answer. It was probably the best way they flirted when they were alone. Jessica could only smile bitterly and say yes, yes, thank you, that's enough. I have a dream. I don't just mean some ambition to become the leader of my own domain and business. I also dream of building a happy family together with a partner I can spend my life with. I want 2 kids at the very least. It'd be nice to be able to do some sports as a whole family. And many more things besides that. I often talk with Shannon about that kind of thing. Though every time I do, she always laughs and says I'm getting ahead of myself. For some reason, even at the age I am now, I find myself thinking about what it'd be like to live peacefully in my old age. With healthy grown-up kids and grandchildren running all over the place. If only I could spend the rest of my life at a slow pace, surrounded by that, together with Shannon forever. Yep, you're definitely getting ahead of yourself. But how should I say it? It sounds like you, George Nissan. Being surrounded by a family like that would probably be so wonderful. The ideal family I've painted in my mind is something like that. To Shannon, who'd been raised in an orphanage, that harmonious image of a family is probably something to be yearned for. And George, who had made an absolute promise to grant that wish for her, may truly have been a fitting person for her to spend her life with. To Jessica, Shannon was a precious friend. George was surely the one most fit to entrust that friend's future to. Well, I don't want to throw cold water on you guys, but Uncle Hideyoshi aside, what are you going to do about Aunt Ava? Won't it be pretty tough to win her over? There's no need for anyone to worry about something like that. No one but me gets any say in who I choose to be my partner. I will bring Shannon happiness. Whose permission do I need for that? Whoa. George Nissan, that was cool. Can't believe you can say stuff like that embarrassing out loud. I don't remember you ever being that kind of character in the past. As they say, if you don't see a boy for 3 days, you should watch him closely. I grow as much as anyone. I intend to study more and grow to be the man Shannon deserves, the one who can bring her happiness. Maybe even George realized how embarrassing the words coming out of his mouth were. His face turned very slightly red, and he scratched his head. George-san? It's okay. I'm sure Mother will be difficult, but you can leave that to me. You'll see. I'll make all the relatives accept you as my partner. Awesome. I'm jealous of you, Shannon, seriously. I'm very grateful that you're willing to go so far. Come to think of it, I'm starting to feel like a third wheel here. Maybe I better leave, huh? As Jessica rose with a forced smile from the bed she'd been sitting on, the phone rang. Before Jessica picked up the receiver, wondering what this could be about, Shannon looked at the clock and jumped. Apparently she spent too much time on her break. I'm sorry, I forgot it was time for work. Then, if you'll excuse me. At the same time Jessica picked up the phone, Shannon began dashing out of the room. Ah, Shannon! Again, the usual time at the usual place. Yes. Excuse me. Hello, it's Jessica. Ah, Genji-san. Yes, Shannon's going back to you guys now. We held her up, so please don't scold her. Yeah, yes. I see. So it's almost time for them to get ready for dinner. Many plates were lined up on the counter in the kitchen. Preparations for dinner were proceeding steadily. The number of plates lined up there was 19. There was one more than should have been set up for the annual family conference. I can't accept it. Why can't I deliver it directly? Goda-san flared up at Genji, paying no heed to the pot that was spitting steam. The master enjoyed eating alone in his study, so his food needed to be served in that room. However, that was something that always happened. Of course, Goda-san would want to set the table for the master with his own hands, since he'd put his heart and soul into his cooking. But the master had imposed a strict rule that none but the servants bearing the golden eagle crest enter his study. So while Goda-san would be able to greet the master from outside the study, not once had he been granted the honor of carrying his cooking inside. Goda-san was always irritated by this. Of course, he was a newcomer in terms of years of service. However, he had piled up plenty of experience from his previous jobs, and was quite confident he'd be able to perform in front of Kinzo in a manner that would do him no disservice. And yet, simply because he was not permitted to wear the golden eagle, he still hadn't been blessed with this honor. Can you imagine what damage this would do to his pride? You might think tonight was a repeat of that, but it wasn't. Because tonight, there was a person other than the master who wanted their food carried to their room. Yeah, Goda, just chuck the food through the window, honestly. Apparently this person is an extremely rare and honored guest. We've been given strict orders to treat them in the same manner as the master, the family head. Goda-san must have wanted to earn some points by serving this honored guest with his own hands. After all, he was an extremely vain person. If he wasn't qualified to serve the master, then at least a guest of the same rank. He simply couldn't find time during lunch, so Kanen-san had gone in his place. So he truly desired to personally serve this person tonight's meal, the best dinner of the year. But Genji-san had put a stop to that. Something about how Goda-san didn't wear the golden eagle. After being told once more he wasn't qualified, Goda-san lost his patience. Ah, so heartrending, Goda-san. I cannot do anything more than watch like this from the shadows. Kumasawa-san, if you have enough free time to dawdle around, please get the dining hall ready. Is the tablecloth set? Oh ho, my apologies. When it became her turn to bear his wrath, Kumasawa slid out into the hall. Beatrice-sama is of exactly the same rank as the master. All rules regarding her are to be respected just as much as those involving the master. Goda-san, please devote your attention entirely towards your own task and serve all the relatives. I wouldn't mind if it was you, Genji-san, but is it really okay to let a child like this serve a guest? If she made some blunder, it would be quite embarrassing. I know they've served here a long time, but that doesn't mean they've been trained in the proper areas. If you'll allow me to speak freely, they are completely lacking in the fundamentals that might qualify them to interact with such a guest. Goda spoke bluntly, even though Shannon was standing right there in the kitchen. Shannon was the one whom Genji had ordered to carry dinner into Beatrice's room. By the ranking system among the servants permitted to wear the golden eagle, Shannon certainly was the second highest in rank. If the highest rank Genji was to set the table in Kinzo's room, then it fell to Shannon to set the table in Beatrice's room. Goda's pride was always horribly injured by this ranking system. At times like this, he'd speak out bluntly and rudely against Shannon and Kanen. Goda kept raising examples each of Shannon's failures until now, making a ruckus about how she couldn't do this or was terrible at that. Shannon, who listened to this with her head hung in shame, heard Kanen's voice from behind her. Kanen had been leaning against the wall in the hallway near the kitchen entrance, a blind spot from the inside, and had been listening to all of this. Where's Shannon's golden eagle? It's on her thigh. You can see it right here. It's this very convenient gap in her dress shows the golden eagle on her. And Kanen's is on his collar. And then, of course, Genji has his own right there. He probably knew that if he entered the kitchen, sparks would start to fly his way. I've got to say it. The man's scum. But we could learn a lot about the fundamentals of entertaining guests from him. Goda-san has learned so much, so he'd be a great reference. Huh. Ne-san, you sure are nice. More importantly, is the guest in the VIP room. Really Beatrice-sama, as they say. Yes. I met her when I was sent to serve her lunch. There can be no doubt it's her. Really? Was she doing well? Canon remembered that he and Shannon had different impressions of Beatrice. To Shannon, Beatrice was a cupid of love, who had granted her magic to establish her relationship with George. Judging by the expression that rose to her face, it looked like she couldn't wait to inform Beatrice of how her relationship with George had progressed. However, Canon already knew. That witch came here with a terrifying goal in mind. The nebulous witch that only been able to see in the past had now revived so fully that she could walk in openly through the front door, and even had dinner carried to her. Once, when she'd vanished from in front of Canon, the witch said something about how her own power was still weak. So if that witch was now appearing so openly, did that mean she finally regained her former power? And she said something else too. She definitely said that she'd sown the seeds of love, while fully aware they would fail. And she said even more. She definitely said that the day had finally come upon which the door to the Golden Land would be opened. Shannon, she's planning to hold some bizarre ceremony with the Master, and you can bet it'll be something too horrible to imagine, and no one will be able to resist. What are you talking about? She came here as the Master requested, so the door to the Golden Land would open, so that everything would be returned to the Golden Land. She definitely said that to me. In the past, the two of them as furniture working for Kinzo had been told what opening of the door to the Golden Land meant. So Shannon understood everything without having to ask a single question, and because of that she felt a deep despair. Something tore at Cannon's heart as he looked at that expression twisted with grief. How could? Why now? Didn't I tell you? We are furniture. Because you acted like a human because of love, you're incapable of obediently accepting the day our service comes to an end. Once I wished this day would come, but it never came year after year. I didn't know how long we'd be forced to endure suffering as furniture. So I thought that day of rest wouldn't come for all eternity. I thought the same thing, but I believed it would definitely come someday, so I never forgot that I'm furniture. But Ne-san, you did forget. It's my fault, isn't it? It was I who... Yeah, it's your fault, Ne-san. If only you hadn't experienced love, we'd both be happy that this day had finally come. You built up too many pointless regrets, even though you knew you'd have to leave this world someday. Will the ceremony begin tonight? Yes. And she said one more thing. Tonight, George-sama will probably give you an engagement ring, Ne-san. That was a fact. George supposedly had an engagement ring hidden in his pocket today, and surely he would hand it over tonight. She brought you two together, planning to use you as the sacrifices of the second twilight. Get it? She tempted you and took advantage of you. I see. I never thought of that. But she told me, she promised that if you don't accept the engagement ring tonight, you won't be chosen as a sacrifice, Ne-san. I think our chances of being able to go to the Golden Land together are very slim. There will be 13 sacrifices. Only 5 will be left alive. The chances of us being part of that group are tiny, but if you just accept her offer, those chances will rise. I want to take that bet. Our salvation is in the Golden Land. We're going to reach that place and gain humanity, and then I want to live as a human, together with you, Ne-san. If we do that, we might be able to find true love. In the past, we used to dream about being able to go to the Golden Land. If we go there, any wish will be granted. We'll be saved from this pain. That's what we believed. However, in this ceremony, only a few people will be invited to the Golden Land, chosen by fate and chance. Everyone else would lose their life as a sacrifice midway through the ceremony. However, in the past, Shannon and Cannon had thought that whenever they reached the Golden Land, or sacrificed, they would still be released from their duties as furniture. That meant this ceremony would definitely bring release to furniture like them, no matter what happened. I don't like it. Together with you, I want to make up for all the suffering we've endured. I won't become a sacrifice. Nesan and I will remain alive, and will reach the Golden Land together. So I won't let you become a sacrifice of the second twilight. Please, Nesan, don't accept that man's ring. If you don't accept it, she promised not to select you as a sacrifice. I cannot do that. Tonight's ring is very special. My heart won't let me refuse it. Nesan, the sacrifices of the ceremony are decided on the witch's whims, and that witch has promised to overlook just you, Nesan. You alone will definitely be able to go to the Golden Land. Only me? What about you, Kaden-kun? The witch's game is enough for me. I'll slip through her clutches. I'm not powerless. I'll tightly grasp that faint chance. After all, our lives are transient, aren't they? In order to begin our real lives, let's drag ourselves to the Golden Land. Then, we will regain humanity. When we've done that, maybe I'll be able to experience romance just like you, Nesan. Maybe I won't have to make someone cry just because I'm furniture. Kaden-kun, I've had enough of being furniture. I'll definitely become human. I'll escape this pain, no matter what. There were tears in Kanon's eyes. By now, Kanon had noticed. Shannon hadn't been the only one to know and suffer from the taste of love. He had too. The tears Jessica had shown him that day, and Jessica's pitiful face as she tried to smooth things over and stay bright ever since then, had slowly wrought some kind of change on Kanon's heart without him knowing it. Shannon, I've been calling to you for some time now. Shannon jumped at the sudden sound of Genji's voice. Apparently he had called for her repeatedly. She hurriedly answered. When she turned back, Kanon had disappeared. It seemed he didn't feel like showing his tears to anybody. Yes, I'm sorry for being careless. I entrusted Kanon with lunch, but it should have been you as the next in rank after me who carried it. Beatrice-sama is the most honored guest of this house. There is no more honored guest than her. Please think of her as another master and be polite. Please take extra care you make no blunders, understand? It's quite painful for me to entrust this to someone as inexperienced as you, but there's nothing we could do about the house's rules. Carry out your duties with the utmost of care. Goda had officially agreed, but he glared at Shannon with an expression that told her he definitely wouldn't forgive any mistakes. Even Shannon felt that Goda might as well go himself if he was so desperate to go, but she considered this one of her responsibilities as one who had been allowed to wear the golden eagle and had to give up. And anyway, I wanted to meet Beatrice. What will I talk about? What will I ask? I don't know. Will this be a meeting of gratitude or one of grief? Or else what? I don't know. Shannon piled the witch's food onto the serving cart and left the kitchen at a slow pace. The person knocking was Kraus. Father, today is our annual family conference. Haven't the siblings gathered here just to get a glimpse of you? Ah, be silent. I say I won't leave. You're there too, aren't you, Genji? Why haven't you had my food brought here as I ordered you to? Kinzo screamed across the door. Genji was waiting behind Kraus. Your meal has been prepared, so it might be carried to the study. However, Kraus-sama has expressed his wish that you eat downstairs tonight. Father, I'm not asking you to do this every day. Just for this one night, won't you gather together with your family? Who are you calling family? Since when have you considered vultures circling in wait for a roadkill to be family? Would you call rotting, oozing maggots family as well? My. Kraus shrugged at this answer, which he had half expected. Genji, carry the meal here as you were told. Why don't you listen to what I say? Why? Genji-san, I leave this in your capable hands. My voice will no longer reach that man. Kraus gave his head a small shake, then quickly turned his back to the door in the study. He had only come calling to save face in front of his siblings, knowing full well how useless this was. After Genji watched Kraus disappear down the stairs, he called again across the door. Master, we have finished preparations for your meal to be carried here. Shall we bring some for Dr. Nanjo as well? Nanjo could be seen in the study. Because Kinzo had forcefully pestered him into finishing their long-lasting chess game, they'd been playing against each other since that early evening. Nanjo had announced as a doctor that Kinzo's days were numbered, so he couldn't refuse if Kinzo demanded that they finish this game while he still lived. Kinzo was thinking deeply about his move, concentrating more than usual. It had been Kinzo's turn for quite some time, and Nanjo, who was tired of waiting, had randomly pulled out a book on magic that he couldn't understand and was skimming it. Kinzo-san, you won't think of a good move just by folding your arms and sitting around in front of the board. Perhaps we better take a break and refresh our minds. Be silent. Huh. That should be enough to solidify my defense. Will the bishop and the knight be able to penetrate that opening? Huh. Today, Kinzo was focused on maintaining a strong defense. Normally, Kinzo's motto was that an offense was the best defense. However, today was completely the opposite. I am also hungry. Shall we suspend the game here? Besides, I've used my head so much without a break, I'm already feeling dizzy. At this rate, I might not be able to form at my best. Now that won't do. In chess, both players must always make their best moves. Any other sort of move is merely a nuisance to consider, ruining a game whose focus is predicting your opponent's thoughts. Such a thing considerably reduces our enjoyment. Kinzo sighed deeply and finally shifted his gaze away from the board. Chess isn't chess without an opponent. If that opponent is tired and wants to suspend the game, there's no getting around it. True, the goal of chess is for both players to make best possible moves and aim for victory. It's an intellectual game, where reading your opponent is key. But Kinzo-san, have you forgotten that there's another goal besides victory? What? What other goal could there possibly be? To think you of all people would forget something like that. Chess is a way to pass the time having fun with a friend. Ugh, you've got me there. I believe I once said those exact words to you long ago. Yes, you've got me there. Kinzo, who almost always wore a frown, relaxed his face for once and laughed. Nanjo felt like he'd been reunited with a close friend he hadn't seen in ages. That's how it is. Now that I managed to take a shot back at you, what do you say? Will you go down with me and have dinner? Why don't we discuss Kasparov's middle game along with some coffee? An appealing proposition. I'm afraid I must decline. I can no longer leave this room. After all, the ceremony has already begun. Is that so? Well, my stomach is growling. I will go downstairs. Anytime you feel like it. Nanjo? Thank you. Oh, what could you be thanking me for? We didn't finish our match. However, it seems I somehow achieved that second goal of chess, which I had forgotten. And it would appear that goal is no less important than achieving checkmate. This isn't like you. Why so sentimental? You said it yourself, did you not? My days in this world are numbered. Now go. And don't come to this room again. Let us continue this match in the Golden Land. That's fine with me, but we'll have to start over. That rook was a serious blow, or losing that rook was a serious blow. Well then, I'll see you later. Yes, later. Maybe in the Golden Land, or in Purgatory. Possibly in the next world. Nanjo didn't say anything beyond that, and with a motion made smooth by familiarity, he pushed the button on the table that released the auto lock. Then, after looking at Kinzo's back one last time, he left the study. As he did, Genji's voice came from the hall. If you are ready, master, I will now carry in your dinner. It may be my final dinner. I must savor it. Please prepare it. As you wish. And are your preparations complete as well, master? Indeed. In the time leading up to this day, this room has been carefully wrapped in a multitude of barriers. Even if her roulette chooses me, I will definitely repel it. I will remain alive and will surely become one of those who reach the Golden Land. I shall repulse the visit of the Reapers trying to drag me off to the land of the dead. Excuse me, I have come to serve your meal. Shannon entered the VIP room, bowing her head and pushing the serving cart. The young woman by the window, gazing out into the supposedly empty darkness, was definitely that witch. So, it is Shannon this time. How long it's been. Oh, your face isn't nearly as pale as it once was. I can see you're no canon. I hardly recognize you. Thank you very much. Shannon sullenly prepared dinner. There were actually several things she wanted to ask the witch, but they were all jumbled up and she didn't know where to start. Her heart was also jumbled up and she didn't even understand her own emotions. So she could only do her job dispassionately with everything still vague. However, the witch saw what was in her heart. You can't hide anything from a witch. I won't apologize. I am a witch after all. Apologize for what? Come now, Canon must have told you about it. I only rescued your love life because of my mischievous spirit. It was nothing more than a seed I sowed, so I could watch your love grow complicated, become twisted, and fail. I imagine some people think it's more fun to hear about love than to have it. You couldn't possibly be trying to thank me, right? I am. No matter what kind of ulterior motive you had when you gave me the magic of love, it doesn't change the fact I received it from you. So even if you sowed that seed, knowing that the two of us would be able to stay together for life, I won't hold a grudge against you. Huh. It seems furniture is dull after all. This is where I show my skill by cooking it into something very interesting. I don't understand what you're thinking, Beatrice-sama. You are a great witch, and people like us don't even reach your feet. Nor can we even imagine your grand thoughts. But there is at least one thing I can say. What is it? Thank you for teaching me to be human. You said it yourself. I am no longer furniture. Be silent, furniture. If you were a true human, hearing the announcement of your death on the day you were to receive an engagement ring should have you dancing around, mad with grief. But what are you doing? Your face looks so enlightened, as though you've accepted everything. Truly an anticlimax, furniture. No, I am not furniture. Be silent, furniture. I won't be silent, because I am not furniture. Are you saying you won't obey my orders? Furniture obeys orders, but a human decides for herself whether to obey orders or not. So I won't obey your orders. Huh. I take back what I said. You really are interesting. If I hadn't sown those seeds, you probably would have allowed the ceremony to control your fate without clinging to any emotions. But now you've grown to become something truly interesting, something that will entertain me to no end. That is well, for I am not fond of boredom. Dinner is ready. Here you go. Huh. Doesn't this look delicious? If Goda makes it to the Golden Land, perhaps I shall commission him as my chief cook. I heard from Canon-kun something about how if I rejected George-san's proposal, you promised not to make me a sacrifice. Indeed, I said as much. You would make an ideal potential sacrifice for the second Twilight. But because Canon cried and screamed, asking I spare you, I graciously listened to his words. With the condition you abandon your engagement, of course. See how gracious I am? What a foolish offer. And what a foolish threat. So you used that to thoroughly bully Canon-kun, did you? Huh. So you comprehend. Apparently Shannon had seen through it. She had apparently guessed at how the witch had bullied and humiliated Canon with that horrible promise as bait. I made him crawl on the carpet and kiss my shoes. And that's not all. Do you want to hear the other ways in which I humiliated him? Shannon silently shook her head. I finally come to understand you. You like to bully, confuse, and trouble people, and you do it to entertain yourself. So now I know for sure the one single way I can resist you. What might that be? I don't care about you. I'll carry out the fate that has been given to me. That's all. I won't entertain you. I don't care about you! The witch's features twisted in hatred for just an instant. It disappeared immediately. But the expression that briefly rose to her face was rare for the witch, whose malicious smile usually never faded for a second. I see, so you might resist me in that way. How amusing. How truly entertaining. I'll kill you. You and your lover both. If that's the fate you've decided upon, do as you will. I won't be afraid, and I won't stand against you. After all, I don't believe the cruel fate that's coming is something controlled by your will. We humans know nothing about fates that might come to pass in the future. That's why I'll live to the fullest until the last instant, following my convictions and the fate set before me. Fate is just a roll of the dice. There's no malice in it. Even if you claim there is, I just won't believe it. Hey Celeste, welcome to the stream. Thank you so much for hopping by. Huh. So even though you've quit being furniture, you have no fear of death. It seems you believe this will bore me, but you couldn't be more wrong. The thought of seeing whether you can hold on to that view until the last moment merely serves to intrigue me more and more. I can't stand this. Why did you take the form of a human, appear in front of us, speak with human words, and ridicule us? If you hadn't appeared in front of us, if you hadn't predicted the future, we would have been able to live life to the fullest until the last moment. That's what witches do. I live off your fates, reigning as a high-order being does over low-order beings. Your fates are nothing more than fragments. If I cut my hands together, I could scoop out as many of those as I want. Just like how no matter what the beef cows I raise might babble, it doesn't change the fact I'll be having them for dinner. We are powerless, so we cannot fight against your ceremony or fate. But I can make you unhappy right now. Huh. And how are you planning to accomplish this? By walking away from this place right now. No matter how I respond to your words, it will only amuse you. Refusing to respond to your questions is my only method of resisting you. I see, I see. You might be able to take a shot at me, but you cannot defeat me, yes? I have the power to kill anyone for eternity. I cannot wait to see whether you can keep up that resistance in an endlessly repeating cycle of death and rebirth. Don't you forget it, okay? You spoke those words yourself. Well then, if you excuse me, if you need anything, please call me. Shannon gave a reserved bow and faced away. With that gesture, maybe she really did take a shot back at the witch, just as Beatrice had said. But when that witch called out again, she sounded a little more quick-tempered than she had before. Cannon thanked me. Can't you thank me for bringing you your day of rest? Furniture may be happy when their day of rest comes, but I am human, so I have nothing to thank you for. Is that all you have come to say? You plan to accept George's ring, yes? Don't forget that if you do, I will abandon the promise I made with Cannon, the promise that you would not be selected as a sacrifice. If you need anything else, I'll have someone else come. If you'll excuse me. A flat-out interruption. Shannon still hadn't answered her, and the sound of the door closing came instead of an answer. Shannon's resistance probably struck far more deeply into the witch than Shannon herself thought, because an expression of hatred once again rose to Beatrice's face. She had made Cannon submit, even though he hadn't been ensnared until the end, whereas Shannon, who had been so easily ensnared before, refused to submit this time. I see. So this state of affairs is amusing after all. Perhaps I really am still young. This is why I haven't tired of life after 1,000 years. Hey Hikaru, welcome to the stream. Thank you so much for coming by. I really appreciate it. Hope you're having a wonderful evening and doing well. I appreciate you coming by. Don't forget, you guys, to go check out Hikaru when you get a chance. He's a very cool streamer. He plays a lot of different games, including Identity V and also League of Legends and other awesome games. And he's just a cool, fun guy. He's such a nice person, so go check him out. This was the most fabulous part of the family conference. Dinner. In the past, when Kinzo had been serious about the conference, he'd taken everyone's yearly gathering for dinner very seriously. Because anything embarrassing that occurred during the dinner would cause the deepest shame for him as the host. He had given Natsui stern orders to avoid embarrassments at all costs. Because of that, she and Kraus eventually hired Goda, who had confidence in his cooking abilities. Thanks to that, they became able to serve wonderful dinners they could be confident in. But by that time, Kinzo had closed himself up in his study and never appeared for dinner. Maybe you can call that ironic. When the main dish for tonight, calf steak, was set out, Goda began to describe it proudly, further stimulating everyone's appetites. The sauce here is Bordelaise. Of course, the red wine base I used was excellent even among those made in Bordeaux, but in addition, I prepared an original blend of this house. A blend of choice alcohol from around the world to further deepen the taste. This sauce is limited to this year. I sincerely hope you all enjoy your meal. Isn't that wonderful? However, isn't Bordelaise sauce common to French cooking? It almost seems like using alcohol from outside France with that is heresy. Or is heresy. Kraus-sama. Today is the annual family conference. As a dinner for those who normally live far away and who have traveled far from across the world to gather together, I realized it would be most fitting to have a sauce made from a blend of fine alcohols from all over the planet that have never met each other before. So I had it specially prepared. Wonderful! A truly wonderful cook, that's what you are? Food and medicine work twice as well if you sell it right. It's already twice as delicious as normal food, and the advertising makes it twice as good as that. The taste keeps doubling and doubling. Ah, haha. Come on, Nissan. That question of yours was obviously a plant. No doubt about it. You totally set Goda-san up to steal the show on that one. You think so? I thought there might be some people here who didn't notice that today's food was in the French style. After all, Ava just said that avoiding butter was a virtue, but that's the Spanish style. Well, I guess they do share a border, right? That's not what I meant. Will you please not take a part of the conversation out of context and make stuff up? It's a very delicious sauce. Goda-san, you certainly are amazing. It is a great honor to receive your praise. And this is all thanks to Madam's habitual guidance. No, it was all Goda's idea. I only listened to the recipe and approved of it. It looked like the siblings quickly got into a loud argument about the sauce, but for the most part, dinner proceeded peacefully. However, a certain question they desperately wanted to ask burned inside each one of them. It was about that visitor, the 19th person, the Golden Witch. In actuality, Ava and Rudolph and the rest were very much on their guards during this meal. If the mystery guest was ever going to be introduced, this dinner table would be the most appropriate place to do it. However, no place was set at the dinner table for the witch. The family conference would begin in earnest after the meal, and previous experiences told them it might last until deep into the night. However, they couldn't imagine why such a person should be kept hidden until that late, if they were going to be introduced in the end anyways. So Ava and Rudolph and the rest were starting to feel a certain suspicion. Perhaps this guest was unknown even to Kraus. If this wasn't an assassin called by Kraus to give him an advantage to the inheritance problem, then maybe they should speak frankly to Kraus beforehand, creating a common front to resist anything disadvantageous to the four siblings. If she was Kinzo's assassin, whose purpose was to keep the inheritance from being handed over to the four siblings, the enmity between Kraus and the other siblings could only become a weak point that benefited the enemy. Well then, please enjoy at your leisure. When he finished explaining the reasoning behind the table setting and the cooking, Goda tried to leave the room, but Kirie called him to a stop with a small voice. Yes, Kirie-sama. What is it? Please excuse me. I was under the impression we had company today, but can we expect to be joined at the dinner table? She had planned on saying it nonchalantly, but unfortunately it reached the ears of Natsui, who was sitting in the next seat over. It seemed that Natsui had heard it as, even though the guests are here, why hasn't the host come to dinner? In other words, that Kirie had asked whether Kinzo was going to join them for dinner. The family head is not at his best, so he said he would take dinner in his study. I believe my husband explained that in the beginning. I'm sorry, that's not what I meant. Natsui's reaction instantly told Kirie that this unknown visitor was also unknown to Kraus and his wife, which meant, on the chessboard inside Kirie's mind, she could hear the clattering of the pieces as they rearranged themselves. What do you mean we have company? Badler, who had been sitting next to Natsui, seemed to have heard Kirie's words without misunderstanding them. Thinking it strange that someone else would be invited to today's family conference, he spoke up incredulously. and thanks to that, the uncomfortable feeling building in the siblings' chest suddenly exploded. Everyone looked at Goda at the same time. Judging by their reactions, it was clear that no one here had invited that mystery woman. For an instant, Goda was startled to find everyone's gazes gathered on him, but because of his naturally vain personality, this actually gave him a feeling of superiority. Therefore, he answered in an extremely calm and graceful manner. That is correct! Our guest wanted to eat alone in the VIP room and is being served there. That extremely graceful and reasonable response of Goda's made it obvious to everyone that a 19th person, a visitor, existed. The VIP room? A guest? What? Who are you talking about? Natsui's words echoed the question that everyone who didn't know about the appearance of the Golden Witch was thinking. For a while, Goda was disoriented, caught completely off guard by the sudden interrogation. This was a guest who had been treated with such deep respect. He hadn't imagined that Kraus and his wife might not even know about her. The guest is Beatrice-sama. Beatrice! See? Beatrice came, Maria had been telling the other cousins over and over again that she had met Beatrice that day. The cousins had answered flippantly, but they hadn't believed. So their eyes grew wide. Sorry, I totally thought you were joking, Maria. So, she really was there? By Beatrice, you mean that Beatrice with the gold? I've been saying she exists the whole time. No one believes. Sorry, Maria-chan, that's not how we meant it. After learning that everyone had doubted Beatrice's existence, Maria, who had been in a good mood all day, completely lost her temper. George, who had sat in the next seat over, tried frantically to calm Maria. Goda, is this some sort of dinner entertainment? Quite a performance. Aniki, quit playing dumb. You called her here, right? Called? Called whom? From where? Nissan, let's be clear about this. Who is she? Surely you aren't going to tell us it really is the Beatrice from the portrait, right? I don't have a clue what you people are talking about. Goda, you really aren't joking, right? I was just ordered by Genji-san, Call for Genji! Immediately! When Natsu yelled, Goda sped out into the hallway. The sound of the door being thrown open was a spark that suddenly set the dinner table ablaze. So you're saying you're in the dark too, Aniki? Who called her? Was it Dad? I don't know anything about this. It seems you people think I've been pulling the strings behind the scenes, but that's a huge misunderstanding. Calm down, Kraus-Nissan. We've gone past the stage of skirmishing with each other. If you're saying even you don't know this mystery person, then something crazy's going on. Hideyoshi-san, can't you be a little bit more discreet with your words? My husband would not invite unnecessary people to the family conference. Obviously. What are you people talking about? Are you saying the witch of the portrait has broken out of her frame and appeared? It's not as though anyone's actually met this witch face to face. I met her! Ava and Rudolph nodded at Rosa's proclamation. I met her too! Uncle Kraus, believe it! Believe Mama! The brief tension was broken and Maria also started to make a ruckus. By now the room was thoroughly wrapped in chaos. I don't have a clue what's going on. So what does it mean? Does it mean the witch who gave Grandfather the gold is showing up as a special guest this year? But is that really true? Aunt Rosa didn't see it wrong, did she? I met her too! Aunt Rosa, are you sure? Yes. Maria and I met her and we even talked to her. I met her. That was definitely a witch. Believe me. I definitely didn't see it wrong or hallucinate or anything. What on earth was that? I like how Kyrie also did not speak up and say she met her. She just wanted Rosa to take all the heat. In the instant before the typhoon arrived, Rosa definitely met a witch in the rose garden. But the scene had been so hard to accept as truth. The more she spoke of it like this, the less she understood what it was she encountered. Ironically, since she was losing her composure, the more frantically she tried to cling to her claim, the more confused and hazy the things she was describing became. Because of that, it only took a single calmly spoken sentence to confirm the nature of what she was describing beyond doubt. I also met with her. I greeted, well, I couldn't really call it that. I exchanged a few words with her. It's definitely not something that Rosa-san just saw wrong. Kirie-san, are you serious? Yes, but she didn't tell me her name, so I can't say for certain that she was Beatrice. However, and sorry if this is subjective, but since I met her in the entrance hall, I was able to compare her face with the portrait. My impression was that the portrait has to be hers. This is all just subjective. This isn't possible. In the first place, where did that woman come from? The only boat arriving today was the boat that brought all of you here. Was she on that boat? Well, it's hard to say for sure. Of course, I don't remember any woman like that getting off the boat with us. Oh, is that all? Can you prove there wasn't a boat besides the one we rode on? You can't. You can't prove one didn't arrive. Makes sense. If another boat did arrive, it might be possible to prove it. If someone saw it and said they saw it, then you're done. But it's impossible to prove that such a boat didn't arrive. Even if everyone says that no such boat arrived, that they didn't see it arrive, you can't prove it didn't arrive secretly. It's that thing they call a devil's proof. It'd be simple to prove the devils exist. All you have to do is meet a devil. But it's impossible to prove that devils don't exist. Just by saying that no one has ever met a devil, you can't deny the possibility that they're hiding away somewhere humans can't go. You can't deny the existence of aliens for exactly the same reason. Until humanity searches the whole of space and can show perfectly that aliens don't exist, you can't be sure that they don't exist. And it's definitely impossible for us to ever check the entirety of space for the existence of aliens. Therefore, while there may be a number of ways to prove that aliens do exist, it will always be impossible to show proof that denies their existence. So any discussion about there being a second boat would just be a waste of our time. She wasn't on the boat with us. That much is a fact, so she must have arrived on this island through some other means. That's right. There may be no need to discuss how she came here. What's important is she's actually in this mansion now and doesn't feel like having dinner with us. Okay, let's review. Right now, there's another guest on this island, other than the 18 people with the Ushimiya family. And there's a guest and this guest even Aniki and Natsui-san didn't know about, right? I know nothing. I don't know what you're talking about. Be silent for now. Your headache will get worse. It is as my wife says. I have no idea what you people have been talking about up till now. Then there can only be one answer. Father called her here. Called her here for today's family conference. For the family conference? Again, why? I don't know that. I'm questioning you because I thought you might know. Ava, could you give it a rest? Kraus-Nissan said he doesn't know. So here's what we've got. Father stealthily invited the witch of the portrait as a secret guest, and she met with Rosa-san and Maria-chan and then Kirie-san. That's all for now. If she has something to say to us, she could just show herself right away. Now we gotta wonder why she's shut herself up without greeting us. Does this mean Dad, who never gave a crap about this family conference in the first place, secretly called a new mistress here, and had her wear the clothes of this ideal witch? This day is too important for that explanation to fly. There can only be one reason, to join in on the family conference. She wants to claim some right to Father's inheritance. Ridiculous! The family head wouldn't have something as filthy as a mistress. I told you to be quiet. I've lived in this mansion with Father all this time, and I've never heard a thing about something like that. If we stretch the plausibility to the limit, and assume Father had an illegitimate child with some mistress decades ago, then maybe Father searched her out and called her here today. Is that what you're trying to say? Here, it's absurd to think Father has such a child, to waste the noble blood of the Ushimiya family on a mistress. This is nothing more than a few people making wild claims. It's obviously a fantasy, a delusion, a daydream. Or is everyone taking part in some kind of act to trick my husband? What act? If anyone's acting, it's you! Quit it, Tanaki. Natsui-san may be a bit over-vehement, but she's right. Kirie saw her, I didn't. Neither did you, Aniki. But Rosa did. But that means she exists. There are people who can prove she exists, so we're sure right away that she does. It's the opposite of a devil's proof. And I want to meet her too. I want to ask her directly what kind of business she has with the Ushimiya family. I agree with you on that. I do indeed wish to inquire as to what business she has on Rokujima. Don't play dumb. There's only one thing she could be after. Father's inheritance. We should work out our future plans with a lawyer who's hot on inheritance issues. If the mistress claims equal rights as mother, then our shares will be cut right in half. Wait a second, everyone. Genji-san will come very soon. He knows everything. I'm sure he'll answer our questions. Until then, let's stop talking about this. Hey, you kids. Sorry, but the adults have to start talking about something complicated. Return to the guest house. Rosa yelled at the children, slightly overcome with emotion. The children didn't understand why they were suddenly being yelled at this time, but Ava and the rest realized it too late. They were talking so bluntly about the filthy topic of the inheritance right in front of the children. Of course they wouldn't want the children to remain. So they all immediately agreed with Rosa's plan. That's right, just as Rosa-san says. George, take all the cousins and go back to the guest house. You all play nice together. George, do as you're told. Take all the cousins and leave right now. Wait a second, Mother. We still haven't finished eating. And dessert hasn't even come yet. We will have Goda-san take dessert to the guest house. So leave. Jessica, from here on the adults will be talking together. Go. Sure. Even though I'm still eating. Well, guess I won't be the only exception. Thanks for understanding, Badler-kun. But you sure are lucky. Huh? Why? I'd want to leave if I could. I bet. I'll let you adults enjoy your happy family chat about the inheritance. I will also take my leave. At any rate, it appears my turn will not come tonight. Nanjo quietly rose to his feet. From his seat in the farthest corner, he had been calmly watching the whole discussion without butting in. Surely that reaction of his was very adult, just what you'd expect from a calm old gentleman. When Nanjo rose from his seat, it ended up encouraging the others who were supposed to leave. The children noisily rose from their seats, and as they hurried into the hallway, the servants returned. I apologize for taking so long. I've called Genji. I was checking to see that all the doors and windows were shut, so it took me some time. My apologies. Come on, children, to the guest house. Goda-san, my apologies, but could you carry the children's portion of the dessert to the guest house? Is that what you wish? It seemed Goda wasn't amused to see the dinner he worked so hard on interrupted like this. He sent Natsui a look as though asking whether that was really okay. Do as Rosa-san says. And it will not be necessary to set out dessert for us. Do not approach the dining hall until we call for you. Tell the rest of the servants to do the same. Understood? Yes, as you wish. Come, everyone. Shall we go? Maria-san, you mustn't trouble your mother anymore. I want to talk about Beato too. No. Maria-chan, could you tell us about Beatrice in the guest house? I really want to hear about the witch. Okay? You're pretty darn smooth, George-Nisan. I'm impressed. Are you sure you don't have kids? You're too used to this. George's words had completely restored Maria's good mood. Now she took the initiative, telling the others to go on to the guest house. It looked like Goda didn't like being kicked out himself, but he couldn't disobey Natsui, so he left the room with Badler and the rest, closing the door. Is there some way I might be of service, everyone? Yeah, there sure is. We've got a whole bunch of questions. In fact, every one of us does. So much we almost want to have a lottery to see who gets to ask first. But no matter who wins the first lottery, the first question will be the same, won't it? That's right. That's right, Genji-san. Answer me honestly. Who is this person called Beatrice in the VIP room right now? Hideyoshi's claim that advertising doubled the taste was apparently right. After being chased out to the guest house, the kids and Nanjo had gathered in the cousins' room and were eating the cake that Kumasawa had brought for dessert. It was both wonderful and high class, topped with lavish amounts of cream and decorated deliciously with fruits. But delicious as it was, it didn't taste quite as good for some reason. Without Goda-san selling it, this isn't nearly as good. And if we ask Kumasawa-san to sell it, she'd just say it's made of mackerel. Really? You can make cake from mackerel? Oh, Absolutely, and as you can see with this very cake, if you mix the squeezed juice of a mackerel with flour and eggs before cooking, it comes out all fluffy. Oh, that'd be incredible if true. Maybe mackerel cake will show up on the new menu at one of Father's restaurants. After all, mackerel is full of nutrients and sounds healthy. It might get really popular with women and the elderly, but I'm not going to get anywhere near it. Girls won't eat something that weird. Even the elderly would wish to decline. Oh, but it's delicious, you know? Kumasawa was really cheering up the mood with her classic mackerel jokes, but the sound of the downpouring rain kept turning their attention towards the mystery guest. In the end, they showered Maria with questions again, since she was the only person here to have met Beatrice. I can't believe she was actually telling the truth. You make it sound like though you never believed it. This Maria meets a witch business isn't news to you. Yeah, I thought it was just one of those fairy tales you'd expect from a dreamy kid that age. She exists! Beatrice exists! Every year when we come to the family conference, I meet her and we play together. That's right! Although Beatrice-sama doesn't usually show herself. I hear she sometimes unexpectedly appears before honest people who with clean hearts. Ho ho ho. Beatrice referred to that character in the fairy tale about the Rokenjima witch. To keep Kinzo in a good mood, the family and servants acted as though they believed in the witch of his delusions. That's how Rokenjima's fairy tale, or maybe ghost story, had come into being. To the family members who knew that backstory, the fairy tale of the Golden Witch wasn't something to be taken too seriously. However, they were never able to say that out loud in front of Kinzo. Because of that, the legend of the witch carried a lot more weight to someone like young Maria, who didn't know the story of how it had come into being. Yeah, she appears before people with clean hearts, like Rosa. That's why Maria believed in the legend of the witch. She accepted it entirely. That was only natural for an imaginative girl who believed in witches. So people had avoided saying things that would betray her dream. On the contrary, they had worked together to say and do things that would help liven up her dreams without her knowing. So when Maria-chan was showing us that candy that supposedly came from Beatrice, I figured someone suddenly slipped it into her handbag. I've done similar things a few times in the past, secretly placing sweets somewhere. I imagine even Kumasawa-san, or rather all the servants, and everyone in the Ushimiya family has done it once or twice. So, if it'll make a small innocent kid happy, you might place a sweet somewhere and have everyone join in on keeping the secret alive for her. Come to think of it, I'll bet you do that kind of thing all the time, George Anaki. Who knows? It'd probably be boorish to admit to such a thing out loud. George admitted it while being extremely wary that Maria didn't find out. In other words, it's kind of like Santa Claus. To protect a kid's dreams, the parents plot together and lie, setting presents at the bedside of a child fast asleep. Unless they're my parents, where when I was growing up and I didn't believe in Santa Claus, because it didn't sound scientific enough to me, and I asked them, Mom, Dad, does Santa Claus exist? And they were just like, nope, you're right, he doesn't exist. It's us. And thus I got into arguments with my school friends in elementary all the time when I was very young about Santa Claus. After all, you want to protect a kid's dreams, right? Obviously, I've known Santa doesn't exist for a long time now, but if there's no reason to wake up from a dream like that, I wish I could have believed it all my life. Because adults know that the world is filled with terrible things. They all want to at least protect the pure dreams of a child. Beatrice exists. Exists. Yes, she does. Beatrice-sama does exist, right? Some time ago, when I was drying mackerel to make some black tea, suddenly... Well, it basically goes something like that. Supposedly, at least. So simply put, this was supposed to be a witch that no one but Maria believed in. I wouldn't phrase it quite like that. The point isn't that we didn't believe. We were all trying to give her a chance to believe. So this is about not betraying a child's innocence. But Santa doesn't exist in reality. If you don't want kids to be all disappointed when they learn the truth, you'd be better off not showing them that dream in the first place. Is the fact that I think like this proof that I'm still a long way from becoming a full adult? The true nature of the Rokenjima witch was finally starting to take shape in Balor's mind. However, their current situation overrode this understanding, and in fact, it completely overturned its very premise. So we thought we knew what was going on, but now Beatrice-sama, the witch, has actually appeared in reality. Is that it? And judging by how freaked our parents were, it looks like she wasn't an uninvited guest. Now it's starting to get interesting. There's no reason for us to simply assume that a woman called Beatrice doesn't exist. It's what Uncle Rudolph called a devil's proof. None of us knew that a woman calling herself Beatrice existed. But that's not the same as proving that Beatrice doesn't exist. Dr. Nanjo, you've been friends with grandfather for a long time, right? At one point during the family conference, I was questioned quite thoroughly by Kraus-san and the others. They wanted to know if long ago Kinzo-san might have had a mistress called Beatrice and an illegitimate child with her. I get it. Our parents have their heads full with the inheritance problem, so of course if the daughter of a mistress like that showed up, it'd be troublesome for them. Kraus-san and the rest probably asked Genji-san about it first. However, Genji-san is an aide who's sworn loyalty to Kinzo-san and is probably a friend more trusted by Kinzo-san than myself. I doubt he told them anything. So next they went to ask me, an old friend of his. And? Did grandfather have a lover named Beatrice, Dr. Nanjo? He did. No, I've never met her. However, I have heard from Kinzo-san that he had a relationship with a woman like that. He said she passed away a very long time ago. She's dead. So did the two of them have a kid? That I do not know. But Kinzo-san always says that reviving Beatrice is the goal of his research. Usually if one loses a mistress, but has a child left behind to remember them by, they pour all their love onto that child. Therefore, we naturally assume that there was no such child between Kinzo-san and Beatrice. Huh? So that leaves us with another devil's proof. Yeah. It's impossible to prove that a child between him and a mistress didn't exist. So now that this child has actually appeared, we have to assume she did exist after all. That's a bit of a rushed argument. It's more realistic that someone caught wind of the trouble with the Ushimiya family inheritance, knew about grandfather's relationship with a mistress long ago, and impersonated her, trying to take a slice of the inheritance for themselves. Sure, that is realistic. We can't deny the possibility that she really is an illegitimate child. One who lived in isolation, forgotten by grandfather, who's returned for revenge, right? Revenge? What do you mean? Ah, sorry. Guys just like to dramatize stuff to make it sound interesting. I've seen too many weird dramas. Normally that might have come off as a light joke, but the joke had landed after an uninvited mystery guest calling herself Beatrice had marched in on the day of the family conference, where the bloody argument that the inheritance had become took center stage. There was no way Bowdler's joke would be welcomed with laughter, so it was a really big help when Nanjo laughed brightly to calm everyone down. I see, that does sound quite interesting. I would love to read a novel with a plot like that. Well, Dr. Nanjo, you should read this novel. It's called Umineko no Naku Koro ni. Well, I don't think it could actually work. After all, right now on this island, there's 1, 2, 3, a full 18 people, right? If anyone tries to do something weird, they'll immediately get caught. And thanks to the typhoon, they can't even leave the island. In other words, if you tried to commit some crazy crime, you'd be screwed. I agree. In a dead end without a way to escape, and in a situation where everyone's really suspicious of her, I seriously doubt she could pull off a terrifying revenge drama like that. Probably not. In that case, it would be more realistic if she had come in secret, without making her presence known. I simply cannot imagine someone appearing openly to take revenge outside of some historical drama. Well, who knows, right? Revenge is based on emotion, not logic. If you got someone willing to go down along with their opponent, they might not be afraid of anything, not even the police or large numbers of people. It's okay, Jessica-chan. None of the disturbing things we're imagining will happen. Like the battle royale between our parents over the inheritance isn't disturbing. That's right, Dad and Uncle Rudolph are pretty tough, and Aunt Ava's even trained in the martial arts. We'll be fine. Yeah. Jessica didn't say it out loud, but she vaguely noticed that her own father stood in opposition to all the other siblings on the inheritance issue. They usually played nice in front of the children. When that pretense was lifted away like it had been at dinner, The result would be a tumultuous uproar. After realizing this, it was only natural for Jessica to be frightened at the thought that her parents might get caught up in some kind of trouble and become human sacrifices for something terrifying. Seriously, George Aniki's right. Nothing's gonna happen. Even if she pretends she's a witch, what can a single human woman who can't even do magic do? The sudden creepy laugh made all of them jump. And when they realized the strange laugh was coming from Maria, they were shocked again. I see, so that's how you see it, Badler. What is it? Don't laugh all creepy like that. You accept Beatrice's existence for now. At least you accept her as the 19th person and a guest. But that's all, right? You don't accept that a 19th person Beatrice is a witch, right? Huh? Of all the crazy things to say. Of course that's what I think. Witches couldn't possibly exist. The only possibility is that she's a human woman claiming to be a witch. Isn't that odd, Badler? That's a devil's proof, isn't it? Armand, thanks for the stream. Thanks for the stretch. I was gonna say stretch, but then stretch begins with the same letters as stream. Yes, Armand, thank you for the stream. Maria, when did you learn the word devil's proof? Oh, thank you for the chaos. Chaos everywhere. Thank you, thank you. Of course witches don't exist. But just because you've never met a witch, that doesn't mean you've proven that witches don't exist, right? Celeste, thanks for summoning Kirby too. Armand, thanks for Kirby lip sync. Hey, buddy. That's right. You're not wrong there. I can't prove that witches don't exist. However, even if I can't prove it, I can claim it. I claim that witches don't exist. Why? How can you claim that witches don't exist, even though you can't prove it? Because things like that don't exist. So that's QED. You finish your proof without any evidence or basis. Now there's a typical case of the ignorant willfully ignoring the shallowness of their own knowledge. A reckless suspension of thought. Then there's only one way to resolve this, Maria. The witch's side needs to show some proof themselves. It's a devil's proof again. If you bring me a devil, we can end this right now. In that case, we could just get this woman calling herself Beatrice to display some wonderful, magnificent magic like the twinkling stars. All she has to do is show us something that's impossible for humans, right? Come now, you two. Please settle down. Kumasawa noticed the atmosphere between them was getting worse and tried to calm them. It seemed as though Badler quickly realized he wasn't acting like an adult. But Maria's expression didn't loosen. As she laughed creepily, she kept staring at Badler. You quit it too, Maria. Let's get back in a good mood, okay? If that's what you want, Beatrice will definitely show you. Something impossible for humans. When she does, you'll believe it too, okay? You'll believe in Beatrice. Sure. If she lets me have a look, I'll believe. It's a chess debate between the witch and you, Badler. If you got checkmated, you'll believe in the witch. Oh, I like the way you put that. The witch shows her magic. My king is put in check. I quibble, saying it'd be possible to reproduce her feat using measures even a human could take, and my king escapes. Failing to do that would be checkmate, so that's a pretty good analogy. Badler, in chess, you and your opponent... Wait, who's talking? Is this Maria still? Or is this like Nanjo, because he knows chess? Badler, in chess, you and your opponent have pieces that move in the same way, so you can predict your opponent's moves. But you know what? What you aren't predicting is that your opponent's pieces might be able to move in ways far stranger than yours. You've simply assumed that since witches must not exist, the movements of Beatrice's pieces will obviously be the same as your own. But you know what? Sorry, Badler, but your chess partner isn't human. She's a witch. She can move her pieces in ways that humans can't. Right now, your understanding is flawed. Badler, you like Aunt Kyrie's chessboard thinking, right? How'd you know that, Maria? Yeah, I like that style of thinking where you stand in your opponent's shoes. And that's why you'll get stuck. Even though your opponent is a witch, you won't accept it. So you can't understand the moves a witch might make, and your chessboard thinking won't work. Your knowledge of your opponent is mistaken. The very first premise of chessboard thinking is broken down. Ah, so that's what your game. You cannot win in chess against a witch. Hehehe. Yep, who's gonna die? Who's gonna die tonight? Who knows? I don't know what happened after that. We servants were strictly ordered not to approach the dining room. I see. So Shannon, have you ever met this person called Beatrice before? I don't know. That was a slightly odd way to say it. It didn't quite sound as if she was saying her memory was hazy. For us servants, Beatrice-sama is the second master of this mansion. Some people say we've spread that rumor because of the master's influence, but even when I just started working here, the story of Beatrice-sama was already being whispered of. I've heard about it before. If you don't show her respect, you'll get cursed, and at least one servant actually did meet with an accident, right? Yes, but it's true that some people believe more than others. I believe respect for that sort of thing shouldn't be forgotten, so I've never doubted that she exists. I vaguely believe that, shadowy being called the Golden Witch existed. And then that witch, whose existence was so shadowy and obscure, actually showed herself and entered openly through the entrance hall. Is that what happened? I don't know. I don't know anything. When you brought her dinner, did you talk about anything? No, nothing. I see. Still, a witch that eats food somehow doesn't sound so realistic. Maybe after all, it's just someone who knows about the witch legend on the island, and someone who's taking on Beatrice's name. I think you've probably come to respect Beatrice and think of her as something like a guardian god of the mansion. So when a person appeared actually going by that name, maybe you were a little disturbed. That's right. I guess that must be the case. George was slightly at a loss as what to do about Shannon's downcast appearance. Maybe not just Genji, but even the young servants have been ruthlessly questioned as to whether they knew anything about this Beatrice person. Thinking that, he tried to cheer her up somehow. Surely, just like Maria and Jessica, Shannon was unable to fully hide the agitation caused by the sudden visit of this person calling herself the Golden Witch. He'd been so sure that was the case, but George probably had no way of looking into Shannon's heart. Shannon was bitter and sad. The door to the Golden Land would be opened. The witch had definitely told her that. This meant the demise of everything. Even if she accepted the ring from George, they would never be married now. No, in the first place, did furniture like her even have the right to be married? Even if the witch hadn't come to signal their demise, wasn't their relationship fated to fail sooner or later? Had she turned her gaze to focus solely on those fun days spent with George, while purposely closing her eyes to the sad reality? What's wrong? You really haven't looked well for a while now. George-san, what does it mean to be engaged? Huh? It means making a promise to marry. But I think in that sense, it means the same thing as marriage. To be honest, I want to take you home as my wife right away. But right now I'm in the middle of training, and I'm still a long way from having the capacity to create my own castle. That's why I want to take you home with me with my head held high, only after I become a full adult. I'm not talking about the distant future. I just want you to wait a short 3 years. But that doesn't mean I want to lie about my feelings for another 3 years. So I decided to give you an engagement ring. That might be a shameful reason as a man. Maybe it's shameful to get engaged because I want you to wait, since I can't support my work and a wife at the same time yet. But I will definitely. Thank you very much. I understand that to you, George-san, an engagement ring means something different than one of many presents you give to a lover. Of course it's different. An engagement ring isn't a simple accessory. It's an oath between lovers, a noble promise left in the form of a ring. So, if we were to get married right away, it'd be completely meaningless, right? then it wouldn't be an engagement ring. I'd give it to you as a wedding ring. Either way, I'd still be giving you a ring. So, it's a soul sign, like saying, this woman is mine, nobody touch her. No, that's not what I... George knew that he was weak by nature. When he'd been captivated by Shannon and had sworn to become an excellent man, he had also sworn to throw away that weak part of himself. So even if he had to be blunt about it, he chose to answer a little roughly. He was sure that doing so would bolster and reassure Shannon. No, that may be true. Sayo, I'll make you my wife. I won't give you to anyone else. I'll make you mine alone. So no one will lay a hand on you. That's what this ring is. Without a doubt. Thank you very much, George-san. I'm truly... happy. Then, George-san, if it was decided by fate that this engagement ring, that this promise could never be fulfilled, would you still give it to me? Shannon tried to ask that, but she swallowed her words. Because George had already spoken the answer. George had said it. He said that to him an engagement ring was infinitely similar to a wedding ring. Therefore, accepting George's ring had a significance far more sacred than a promise to marry. So, I'll stop calling this an engagement ring. From now on, this isn't an engagement. It's a wedding ring. Is that really okay? Is it okay to just proclaim that we're married without even God's blessing? Yeah, it's enough to tell God, Father, and Mother about it afterwards. We'll tell them all that we've been married. No one will be able to undo it. George-san. I'm not saying this because of a momentary emotion. I'm not just looking at how you are now. I'm looking at the you of tomorrow, of the next day. I'm even gazing at you as you'll be in the old age in the future as I say this. You're always talking about that, George-san. About how you want to enjoy your old age slowly, surrounded by healthy children and grandchildren. Yeah, at that time an older you will be beside me. That is what I expect. No, what I foresee. Yes, because that day will surely come. Will it? Surely come? Yes. Surely. Definitely. And this ring proves it without words. Please, show me. Huh? Here it is. George, thinking he was being told to show her the ring, hurriedly took it outside the ring box. Even though he had practiced so much, he hadn't been able to do it cool. But Shannon wasn't looking at that. In her straight and direct gaze were vague tears and a smile. She focused her eyes on George's eyes. No, on something she could see beyond his eyes. Please, show me that future. Yeah, I'll show you. Surely. I promise it. And not just that until old age. After we die too. Even when we become spirits, we'll always, always be together. Yeah, look at all these death flags here. Whoa. Shannon wiped away her tears and took the ring box. Inside was a diamond ring worthy of blessing the two of them. George said the line he'd practiced over and over again inside his head. I want you to put this ring on, whatever finger you like, and have that be your answer. So by tomorrow morning... Shannon smiled, took the ring, and with a completely natural movement, put it on the ring finger of her left hand. It really had looked like such a natural, ordinary movement, and for a while George was stunned. This is my answer, George-san. Shannon. No. Sayo. Even when we become spirits, we'll always, always be together, George-san. There was no blessing from God, no pastor to witness, nothing. But the two were married, proclaimed it. Two souls were joined here today. Yeah, the music's really nice. A lot of the good Umineko music is like during the intense moments, but a lot of the peaceful times have good music too. Nae-san, you're a fool. Is that so? Even though you're furniture. Even though you're furniture. I'm not furniture. Not anymore. Liar. Why are you fooling yourself? Even though you know you can never become human. Even though you know you can't become human unless you go to the Golden Land. Knowing that, why did you abandon the promise that would let you go there? Oh, right. By accepting the ring, the promise of Beatrice-sama comes to nothing, doesn't it? I'm sorry. From now on, you, George-sama, the master, and everyone else are under the same conditions. 13 people will be sacrificed. Only 5 will be invited to the Golden Land. And you rejected one of those places yourself. That's odd. It looks like you're the one with regrets, Kanen-kun. You're the one with regrets, aren't you, Nae-san? You got engaged, right? Even though you knew it was fate that would never be fulfilled. Yes, I promised we would always be together for eternity. So you know what? In that instant, our eternity was completed. Even if we become sacrifices, it's already completed. So it's okay. Kanen, you're the one who actually has regrets. We're furniture, right? We'll be freed no matter the results. So it doesn't matter whether we go to the Golden Land or not. And yet you're set on going there. You want to become human no matter what, right? Why? Because I want to become human. I've had enough of being furniture. Why? I wanted to fall in love too. Tears were coming from Kanen's eyes, and he howled. I liked Milady. And after seeing Milady that day, I started liking her even more. When I heard that Milady also liked me, I was really happy. But I'm furniture, and I can't accept Milady's feelings. You're wrong. We may be furniture, we may be less than human, but that doesn't mean we aren't qualified to love. I thought that if these feelings wouldn't come to anything, I'd be better off not having them. I just decided that eventually I'd disappear, and it definitely hurt her. No, that's wrong. I was just frightened. CB, thank you so much for the rain of frogs. Looks like I have a frog stuck on my head. I was just afraid, thinking that any love that couldn't be eternal was best avoided. Even though their lives only lasted a few weeks, cicadas fall in love and then vanish. But you'll never find a cicada that refused to fall in love simply because it ended in a few weeks. It seemed that Kanen was still muttering his regrets, but by now it was all jumbled up with his sobs. That witch is detestable. Why does she plant these feelings in me? If only she hadn't pulled that bizarre prank, I wouldn't have paid Milady any notice. Beatrice-sama is detestable. To make you cry bitter tears, she played games with your fate. But I don't think things went as the witch expected. After all, knowing love isn't a regret that ties you to life. It's the destination we're supposed to reach in our journey through life. Well now, Kanen. The promise you worked so hard for has now come to nothing. Very well then. With this, the conditions for all the pieces are the same. There are 18 pieces. 13 will be offered as sacrifices. Who will the 5 survivors be? Or else, will someone destroy the ceremony? Who? How? This isn't a chess problem. It's a game on equal footing. I won't be cornering you one-sidedly. You'll be able to frantically escape my advances and force a tie, an invalid match. At any rate, I doubt you can manage more than repeating that over and over. And it probably won't be that difficult for you. However, this invalid match will continue forever, until it eventually wears down your mind and kills it. That is when you'll accept your defeat and surrender to me. There's a reason I said it was a game on equal footing. That's because rules for my loss have also been established. There's nothing as boring as a game you can't lose, right? As for how to defeat me, that would be the epitaph that stands as an offering to my portrait. It's both the way to open the door to the Golden Land and the key to destroying my ceremony. I'll try to complete the ceremony in accordance with the epitaph. You'll try to solve the riddle of the epitaph, destroy the ceremony, and overthrow me. Solve the riddle hidden in the epitaph, and expose the location of the vast sum of gold I gave Ginzo. What result will this game show us? I'm expecting a good fight, okay? Entertain me, Ushirimiya battler. It's interesting that Maria and Beatrice use the opposite chess analogies. Yeah, you're right. That's very interesting. This game is overly fond of its chess analogies. If you watch the anime version of Umineko, every episode is named after a different type of move in chess, which is kind of interesting. I have no objections. Natsui and I acknowledge it. Ugh, I can't believe it and I don't want to, but this is the truth, isn't it? Natsui, choose your words more carefully. She's this family's most honored guest. I also acknowledge it. Can't argue back. Yes, I acknowledge it. I have absolutely no complaints. I can't believe you actually. You have my honest respect. Me too. Incredible. I genuinely respect you, so I have to acknowledge it. I acknowledge it too. I still can't believe it. Still, what can I do? You've proven devils. It's your victory. The devil's proof was a convenient excuse you liked using to handle unprovable matters, but now it's become your mortal enemy, has it not? Don't torture me, mighty witch. I've already acknowledged you. I resign. Kyrie, do you still have objections? I must have everyone in agreement. If you alone would not acknowledge my existence. As the witch laughed boldly, the siblings started getting frantic. They were afraid of displeasing the witch. Kyrie lightly closed her eyes and after keeping silent for a while, opened her mouth. My apologies. I resign. Only Kyrie had faced the witch with stern eyes until the end. However, this only resulted in her refusing to accept the truth for a short time. The truth, the being that was before her eyes, couldn't be denied. Devils had already been proven. I also acknowledge it. You are Beatrice, the Ushirimiya family alchemist, and a user of great magic. I must acknowledge the fact that you are a witch. Second day, October 5th, 1986. Well, that sounds like a good place to leave it off for today. Unfortunately, it's just getting interesting too. But we're in for a lot of stuff to happen soon, so I feel like it's a good place to leave it off. Yeah, apparently they have a full-on chapel on the island for whatever reason. And was it just me? They didn't show Nanjo or Shannon or Kumasawa in that little, like, because every time the day switches over midnight, they always show the locations of everyone on the island. But they missed Nanjo and Shannon. Did they miss anyone else? I don't think so. Oh, and Kumasawa. It's kind of interesting. I don't know. I don't think that has anything to do with anything, or maybe it does. But I definitely didn't notice that the first time around, long ago, or maybe I did and just forgot about it. Anyways, looks like we're finally on to the part that we've all been waiting for. The murders! Yay, the murders! We love murders, I guess. But you can see things are already very different. Beatrice is on the island, which is already very different from before, which is changing certain events. Shannon seems that she accepted George's ring immediately instead of waiting until the next day. And it seems like all the adults are gathered in the chapel saying that they believe in Beatrice, which is kind of interesting. What comes next? Who knows? You're going to have to tune in next week. Now, next week, I know we usually do Umineko on Saturdays. Next week, we're doing charity stream on Saturday. It's Thankmas next weekend. So we will be doing Umineko next week, but I'm going to do it on the Sunday instead of the Saturday. I still want to do the weekly Umineko streams. It's just I can't do it on Saturday. So I will see you next week on Sunday for more Umineko Episode 2, Turn of the Golden Witch, where I think we're probably more than halfway there. Kind of like in the first episode where like things start to speed up after you get to after the murders start happening. But I think we'll probably still need at least 2 streams to finish this episode and piece everything together. Maybe even 3, depending on... Actually, I don't think the tea party is too long this time. But again, I'll have to double check that. So thank you again so much for coming to stream. I really appreciate your support. Let's have a look at Twitch and see if anyone is available for a raid. And no one I know is online right now. So I will let you guys go for tonight. Thank you so much again. Take care, get a good rest, and I'll see you next time. Good night. Bye-bye.